What if the most unpredictable ninja was actually born with the potential of Konoha's greatest prodigy? Imagine Naruto Uzumaki with Shisui Uchiha's legendary speed and tactical genius. This is the story that changes everything. Buckle up.
A flash of yellow cut through the morning mist that clung to Konoha's training fields. The blur materialized for a split second. A boy with spiky blonde hair, no older than 7, before vanishing again with a whisper of displaced air. 3 kunai embedded themselves into 3 separate targets, each hitting dead center with mechanical precision. Again, the boy muttered to himself, blue eyes narrowed in concentration. Faster this time! Naruto Uzumaki's small frame blurred once more, this time almost invisible to the untrained eye. The sound of metal striking wood echoed 6 times in rapid succession. When he finally stopped, standing perfectly balanced on 1 foot atop a wooden post, 6 more kunai quivered in their targets. The 3rd Hokage watched from the shadow of a distant tree, pipe momentarily forgotten in his slack-jawed amazement. His chakra control is perfect, Hiruzen whispered to the silver-haired Anbu beside him. At this age, it shouldn't be possible to maintain the body flicker at that speed, especially with the burden he carries. Kakashi Hatake nodded silently, his visible eye tracking the boy's movements with his Sharingan exposed beneath his mask. It's beyond anything I've seen since Shisui. The precision is uncanny. Below them, unaware of his audience, Naruto closed his eyes and formed a single hand sign. Chakra rippled around him, visible even to the naked eye, a phenomenon typically reserved for Jinchuriki in states of emotional distress or elite jonin channeling massive techniques. Yet the boy stood calm, perfectly in control, as the blue energy swirled around him in intricate patterns. Look at how he's cycling his chakra, Hiruzen observed. He's not just releasing it, he's shaping it, refining it mid-flow. 3 shadow clones popped into existence without the customary puff of smoke, a level of chakra efficiency unheard of for the technique. Each clone drew a kunai and assumed a different stance. What followed left even the veteran Anbu captain speechless. Naruto and his clones engaged in a blindingly fast sequence of movements, testing each other's defenses, adapting to counterattacks in real time. The original Naruto moved with such fluidity that he seemed to fade between positions rather than travel through the intervening space. Lord Third, Kakashi finally spoke. This isn't normal development, even for a prodigy. No, Hiruzen agreed gravely. It's something else entirely. The boy below them suddenly stopped, his clones dissipating. He turned directly toward their hiding place with unflinching confidence. You can come out now, Naruto called, voice carrying clearly despite his small stature. I've been aware of you for the past 20 minutes. Hiruzen's eyebrows rose in genuine surprise. They had concealed their presence with Anbu-level techniques. He nodded to Kakashi, and they both stepped into view. Impressive sensory abilities, Naruto, the Hokage said, approaching the boy. Most genin wouldn't have detected us, let alone an academy student. Naruto didn't smile or preen at the praise. Instead, his blue eyes, sharp and calculating in a way that seemed jarringly out of place in his young face, assessed the 2 shinobi before him. Lord Third, Kakashi-san. He nodded respectfully to each. I assume you're here because someone finally noticed. The casual confidence, the lack of childish excitement, it struck Hiruzen forcefully how different this Naruto was from what the villagers believed him to be. The clumsy troublemaker was nowhere to be seen. How long have you been hiding your abilities? Hiruzen asked directly. Naruto's expression remained neutral, but something flashed behind his eyes. Since I realized what happens to weapons that people fear. The implication hung heavy in the morning air. This child, burdened with containing the 9 tails, had understood his precarious position in the village and made a calculated decision to conceal his true potential. And what exactly is the extent of those abilities? Kakashi inquired, his tone carefully measured. Instead of answering verbally, Naruto vanished. Not with the puff of smoke that accompanied a substitution jutsu, but with pure, unadulterated speed. Before either man could react, a kunai gently pressed against the Hokage's back. I could have placed this anywhere, Naruto said quietly from behind him. I chose not to. Kakashi had already drawn his own weapon, but stopped when he realized the Hokage remained perfectly calm. "I see," Hiruzen said, turning to face the boy as Naruto lowered the kunai. The body flicker technique taken to its logical extreme, just like Shisui Uchiha. "I've studied the accounts of his abilities," Naruto admitted, "but I don't have his eyes. I had to compensate in other ways." Hiruzen exchanged a meaningful glance with Kakashi. The implications were staggering. Without the Sharingan's perceptual advantages, achieving this level of speed required a fundamentally different approach, one that potentially surpassed even Shisui's legendary technique. "Show me," the Hokage commanded. What followed was a demonstration that would alter the course of Konoha's future. Naruto displayed not just speed, but a mastery of chakra control that allowed him to perform jutsu with minimal hand signs, precise chakra sensing that extended hundreds of meters in all directions, and tactical thinking that would shame most jonin. By the time the sun had fully risen over the Hokage monument, Hiruzen Sarutobi had made his decision. "Naruto Uzumaki," he pronounced formally, "as of today, you are removed from the standard academy curriculum." The boy's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. "Instead," Hiruzen continued, "you will be placed under specialized tutelage befitting your unique abilities. The village has wasted your potential long enough." "And the villagers?" Naruto asked, the only hint of emotion in his otherwise controlled demeanor. "What happens when they learn what their demon boy can really do?" Hiruzen's face hardened with resolve. "They will learn that Konoha's greatest weapon has been hiding in plain sight, and those who fail to show proper respect to a shinobi of your caliber will answer directly to me." For the first time that morning, Naruto Uzumaki smiled, a small, measured expression that nevertheless transformed his face from that of a hardened prodigy to the child he still was. "Then I accept, Lord Hokage," he said with a formal bow. "I'm ready to stop hiding." As the three figures walked back toward the village, none of them could have predicted how drastically this moment would alter the future of the shinobi world. The transformation of Konoha's pariah into its most celebrated prodigy did not occur overnight, but it happened far more quickly than anyone anticipated. Within 6 months of his abilities being discovered, Naruto Uzumaki had become a name whispered with the same reverence once reserved for legends like the Yellow Flash or the White Fang. The Hokage had assigned him a rotating cast of elite instructors: Kakashi Hake for tactics and ninjutsu, Might Guy for taijutsu, Kurenai Yuhi for genjutsu resistance, to compensate for his lack of Sharingan, and, most surprisingly, Abiki Morino for psychological warfare and intelligence analysis. Today, Naruto stood in Training Ground 3, facing his most demanding teacher. Again, Kakashi ordered, his Sharingan exposed. "This time, I won't hold back." At 12 years old, Naruto's appearance had changed dramatically from the boy in orange jumpsuits that villagers once scorned. He wore a fitted black combat uniform with subtle dark blue accents, his Hittite 8 secured tightly around his forehead. The only splash of color was a burnt orange armband bearing the Uzumaki spiral. "Neither will I," Naruto replied, his voice calm and measured. What followed was less a sparring match and more a demonstration of why Naruto had earned the moniker that now followed him throughout the 5 nations, the second coming of the teleporter. Kakashi lunged forward with a lightning-coated kunai, but struck only air as Naruto's form seemed to flicker and distort. Unlike the standard body flicker that most shinobi used for straightforward transportation, Naruto's technique had evolved into something altogether different, a method of movement that allowed him to change direction mid-flicker, creating the illusion of being in multiple places simultaneously. "Swift release Phantom Steps," Naruto announced calmly, his voice seeming to come from 3 different locations at once. Even with his Sharingan, Kakashi struggled to track the boy's movements. This wasn't just speed, it was a fundamental manipulation of how chakra interacted with physical movement. "You've improved it again," Kakashi noted, narrowly avoiding a strike from behind. "The chakra signature splitting is new." Naruto materialized briefly, hands already forming the next sequence of signs. "I realized I was leaving too much of a trail. Fix that problem." "Water style, Water Dragon Bullet." The massive water dragon erupted from Naruto's mouth, a B-rank technique performed with only 4 hand signs instead of the standard 12 and with no water source nearby. The construct surged toward Kakashi with deadly precision. Rather than counter with an equally powerful technique, Kakashi tested his student further. "Show me how you handle multiple opponents now." His hands blurred through signs. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 4 perfect copies of Kakashi appeared, each launching a different elemental attack at Naruto from varying angles. The blonde prodigy didn't flinch. His hands formed a single, unique seal that he had developed himself. Uzumaki style, Cyclone Barrier. Chakra erupted around him in a perfect sphere, then began rotating at increasing speeds until it formed a visible shell of blue energy. The 4 elemental attacks, fire, lightning, earth, and water, struck the barrier simultaneously and were absorbed into the rotation. Phase 2, Naruto whispered, eyes closed in concentration. The barrier suddenly expanded outward in a controlled explosion, releasing each of the absorbed elements back at their casters with increased potency. The Kakashi clones were dispatched instantly, leaving only the original, who had prudently substituted himself with a log. "Impressive," the Jonin acknowledged, emerging from the tree line. "But I'm not sure what you call that technique. It's not quite a barrier, not quite a redirection." "I call it adaptation," Naruto replied, not even breathing hard despite the chakra expenditure. "Taking what comes at me and making it mine." Kakashi nodded thoughtfully, "Like how you've adapted Shisui's techniques without having his eyes." "Exactly. The Sharingan is a powerful tool, but it's also a crutch. Those who rely on Kekkei Genkai often fail to develop the fundamental skills that make those abilities truly dangerous." A philosophical point worthy of debate, a new voice interrupted. Both shinobi turned to see Itachi Uchiha approaching, his Anbu mask pushed to the side of his head. Despite his young age, Itachi's reputation as Konoha's most skilled Uchiha preceded him. "Itachi-san," Naruto greeted with a respectful nod. Their relationship was complex. Professional respect mingled with an undercurrent of competitive tension. After all, Naruto had explicitly modeled some of his techniques after Itachi's cousin. "The Hokage sent me," Itachi explained. "Your Genin team assignments have been finalized." Kakashi's visible eyebrow raised. "Teams? Plural?" "That's the unusual part," Itachi confirmed. "Naruto is being assigned as a floating member between Team 7 and 8, with specialization rotations. The council feels his skills are too valuable to be limited to a single team structure." Naruto processed this information with his characteristic analytical calm. "Who will be the Jonin instructors?" "Kakashi for Team 7, focusing on frontline combat operations. Kurenai for Team 8, focusing on tracking and intelligence gathering." "And the other Genin?" Naruto inquired. Itachi's expression remained neutral. "Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and a remedial academy student named Sai for Team 7. Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame for Team 8. Naruto nodded thoughtfully. The team compositions made strategic sense. Team 7 would focus on direct combat, with Sasuke's fire techniques complementing Naruto's speed-based attacks. Team 8 would leverage Naruto's sensory abilities alongside the Hyuga's Byakugan and the Aburame's insects. "When do we begin?" he asked. "Tomorrow," Kakashi answered. "Though I should warn you, having you split between teams is going to create some interesting dynamics." Naruto allowed himself a small smile. "You mean jealousy from Sasuke?" Neither Kakashi nor Itachi contradicted him. The younger Uchiha's fixation on power had only intensified as news of Naruto's abilities had spread throughout the village. "My brother is driven," Itachi said carefully. "Working alongside someone of your caliber will either inspire him to greater heights or push him toward more dangerous ambitions." "And which outcome do you predict?" Naruto asked directly. Itachi met his gaze unflinchingly. "That depends entirely on you, Naruto Uzumaki. My brother stands at a crossroads, and your influence may determine which path he chooses." The weight of responsibility settled comfortably on Naruto's shoulders. Unlike his counterpart in another timeline, this Naruto had never shirked from such burdens. Instead, he calculated, planned, and executed with precision that belied his years. "I understand," he said simply. "I'll ensure he sees the value of Konoha's strength rather than just his own." As Itachi departed and training resumed, neither Naruto nor Kakashi could have anticipated just how thoroughly that commitment would be tested in the months to come. The training ground erupted in flames as Sasuke Uchiha completed his hand signs. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. The massive sphere of flames roared toward the tree line where their target, Kakashi, had last been spotted. The attack was impressive for a Genin, displaying both the Uchiha's natural affinity for fire and Sasuke's above-average chakra reserves. But it was also predictable. Too slow, Naruto commented from beside him, his voice matter-of-fact rather than mocking. You telegraphed your intentions 5 seconds before executing. Sasuke's dark eyes narrowed in irritation. If you have something useful to contribute, then do it. Otherwise, stay out of my way. Before Naruto could respond, the ground beneath them cracked. Kakashi's hands burst through the soil, grabbing for their ankles. Earth-style headhunter jutsu. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise, his reaction time a fraction too slow, but before Kakashi could pull him underground, a flash of movement disturbed the air, and suddenly both Genin were standing 5 meters away untouched. Teamwork, Naruto said simply, releasing Sasuke's shoulder. That's the lesson, isn't it, Kakashi-sensei? The silver-haired Jonin emerged fully from the ground, brushing dirt from his uniform. His visible eye crinkled in what might have been a smile beneath his mask. Very good, Naruto, though I'd hoped the others might figure it out as well. Across the training ground, Sakura emerged from her hiding place among the bushes, looking somewhat sheepish. The fourth member of their team, Sai, dropped from a tree branch, his face expressionless as usual. The bell test is designed to pit us against each other, Naruto explained to his teammates. There are only 2 bells, but 4 of us. The obvious conclusion is that 2 will fail, but that's the trap. No Genin is meant to defeat a Jonin alone. The real test is whether we're willing to work together despite competing interests. Sasuke scoffed. And you figured this out when? Before we started, Naruto replied without arrogance, simply stating a fact. It's a standard psychological assessment technique. Create artificial scarcity, observe response to induce stress. Kakashi approached the group, twirling the 2 small bells on his fingers. Naruto is correct, and since he's the only one who demonstrated both the insight to understand the test and the willingness to help a teammate, even one who rejected his assistance, he's the only one who passes. What? Sakura exclaimed. But that's not fair. We never had a chance to show teamwork if we didn't know that was the test. Fairness is irrelevant in the field, Kakashi replied coldly. Missions don't announce their true objectives. You must discern them yourself and adapt accordingly. Sasuke's fists clenched at his sides, his frustration palpable. Being outperformed by Naruto, again, was clearly testing the limits of his self-control. However, Kakashi continued, his tone softening slightly, since this is your first day as an official team, I'll give you another opportunity. After lunch, we'll resume the test with the true objective made clear. Demonstrate effective teamwork, and you may yet pass. As Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of leaves, the 4 Genin were left in uncomfortable silence. Naruto observed his teammates carefully, analyzing their responses to failure. Sakura looked disappointed but determined. Sai's expression remained unreadable. And Sasuke was staring directly at Naruto with undisguised resentment. How did you move us both so quickly? He demanded. That wasn't a standard body flicker. Naruto considered his response carefully. Hiruzen had advised him to build bridges with his peers, not alienate them with his abilities. It's a technique I developed based on Shisui Uchiha's methods, he explained. I call it swift release, though it's not technically a Kekkei Genkai. It combines precise chakra control with momentum conservation principles. You modeled your techniques after an Uchiha? Sasuke's tone was skeptical, but Naruto detected genuine curiosity beneath the hostility. Shisui was considered the most skilled body flicker user in shinobi history. It made sense to study his methods. And my brother? Did you study Itachi as well? The question carried weighted implications. Everyone present knew of the complex relationship between the Uchiha brothers, Sasuke's desperate desire to surpass Itachi, and the elder Uchiha's seemingly effortless genius. Itachi's genjutsu techniques are beyond my current capabilities without a Sharingan, Naruto answered honestly, but his tactical approach and chakra efficiency are worth emulating. Something shifted in Sasuke's expression, not quite acceptance, but a reluctant acknowledgement. After we pass this test, he said with grim determination. You're going to show me how you adapted Shisui's techniques without the Sharingan. It wasn't a request. Naruto nodded once, understanding the olive branch for what it was. Fair enough. Sakura, sensing the tension easing, stepped forward. So how should we approach the next round? If teamwork is the key, we need to leverage our individual strengths while compensating for weaknesses, Naruto replied, shifting smoothly into tactical mode. Sasuke has the strongest direct combat abilities among us. Sakura has perfect chakra control and analytical skills. Sai's ink techniques provide range support and reconnaissance. And you? Sai asked, speaking for the first time. Naruto met his gaze steadily. Something about Sai had always seemed off to him, as though the boy were wearing a mask more concealing than Kakashi's. I'll be the connector. My speed allows me to support wherever needed most urgently, relay information between separated team members, and create openings for your specialized attacks. As they continued planning over lunch, Naruto couldn't help but notice how naturally he had fallen into a leadership role. Yet he was careful not to dominate the conversation, drawing out contributions from each teammate. Even Sasuke, initially reluctant, began offering tactical suggestions. By the time Kakashi returned, something resembling an actual team had begun to form. What followed was a demonstration of exactly why the Hokage had designated Naruto as a floating team member. The four genin moved with surprising coordination, with Naruto's swift release serving as the glue that held their formation together. When Sasuke launched a fire technique, Naruto would appear behind Kakashi, forcing him into its path. When Sakura set traps, Naruto would herd their sensei toward them with precisely timed kunai throws. And when Sai's ink creatures attacked from above, Naruto would disable Kakashi's footing with earth manipulation. None of it was enough to actually defeat a jonin of Kakashi's caliber, of course. But that wasn't the point. They were demonstrating something more valuable than victory: adaptability, communication, and mutual support. When Kakashi finally called a halt to the exercise, all four genin were breathing hard, even Naruto, though his stamina remained considerably higher than his peers. Well, the jonin said, eye crinkling again, it seems I have a team after all. You pass. The simple declaration brought visible relief to Sakura's face and a satisfied nod from Sai. Sasuke maintained his stoic expression, but the tension in his shoulders eased slightly. Tomorrow, Kakashi continued, you'll begin regular missions as Team 7. However, as you know, Naruto will be splitting his time between our team and Team 8. When he's absent, you'll need to adjust your tactics accordingly. Why is he on two teams anyway? Sakura asked, voicing the question that had clearly been bothering her. I've never heard of that happening before. Kakashi's eye fixed on Naruto for a moment before he answered. Because some assets are too valuable to be utilized at anything less than maximum efficiency. The clinical description made Naruto's expression tighten imperceptibly. For all his prodigious abilities, for all the respect he now commanded, there remained the uncomfortable truth that the village saw him as a weapon first and a person second. I'll see you all tomorrow at the mission desk, 8 a.m. sharp, Kakashi concluded, before disappearing in another swirl of leaves. As the newly formed Team 7 prepared to depart the training ground, Sasuke fell into step beside Naruto. You held back during that exercise, he stated flatly. Naruto didn't deny it. We all did. The purpose wasn't to defeat Kakashi-sensei, but to demonstrate teamwork. Show me, Sasuke demanded, stopping suddenly. Show me what you can really do. No holding back. The request was bound to come sooner or later. Naruto considered the pros and cons of a full demonstration. On one hand, it might further aggravate Sasuke's competitive nature. On the other, concealing his abilities would only breed distrust. Very well, he agreed, stepping into the center of the clearing as Sakura and Sai watched curiously. One technique, full intensity. Without further preamble, Naruto's hands formed a sequence of signs too fast for the untrained eye to follow. Chakra surged around him, creating visible distortions in the air. Swift release, phantom storm. What happened next left even Sasuke speechless. Naruto's form seemed to multiply, not in the solid way of shadow clones, but as ephemeral afterimages that traced his movements through space. He moved with such speed that he appeared to be in 20 places simultaneously. each image leaving trails of yellow light that formed complex geometric patterns in the air. The entire training ground became enveloped in a web of these light trails, with Naruto's form flickering between nodes in the pattern, faster than even Sasuke's trained eyes could track. Then, at the technique's apex, all the light converged on a single point, a target rock 50 meters away, and the stone exploded into dust from the combined impact of dozens of simultaneous strikes. When Naruto finally came to rest, standing calmly where he had begun, the silence was deafening. "That," he said quietly, "is what happens when the body flicker technique is refined beyond its intended limits." Sasuke stared at the dust cloud that had once been solid stone, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. Sakura hurried after him, throwing one last amazed glance at Naruto over her shoulder. Only Sai remained, his dark eyes evaluating Naruto with new intensity. "Interesting," he said finally. "Danzo-sama will want to know about this." Before Naruto could question the strange comment, Sai too had departed, leaving the young prodigy alone with the aftermath of his demonstration. "Danzo, is it?" Naruto murmured to himself, filing the information away for later investigation. "That explains a few things about you, Sai." With a measured sigh, Naruto gathered his equipment and headed toward Training Ground 8. Kurenai and her team would be expecting him for their afternoon session, and he had already identified 17 improvements he could make to his swift-release technique. After all, a weapon was only valuable as long as it remained sharp. The border of Fire Country rustled with a tension that even civilians could sense. 3 months had passed since the formation of the Genin teams, and what should have been simple escort missions had evolved into something far more complex. Team 8 crouched in the dense underbrush, concealed by both natural cover and Kurenai's subtle genjutsu. Hinata's Byakugan scanned the forest ahead, while Shino's insects provided a perimeter of awareness that extended nearly a kilometer in all directions. "3 squads," Hinata whispered, veins bulging around her pale eyes. "Chunin level at minimum, possibly Jonin leading." "Sound ninja," Shino confirmed as one of his insects returned to his outstretched finger. "They're searching for something, or someone." Kurenai's crimson eyes narrowed. "This goes beyond our mission parameters. We should withdraw and report to Konoha." "No time," came Naruto's calm voice as he materialized beside them, not a twig disturbed by his arrival. "Team 7 has engaged the enemy 2 kilometers southeast. Kakashi-sensei sent me to retrieve you." "Engaged?" Kurenai's tone sharpened with concern. "What happened?" "Ambush." The bridge builder lied about the mission parameters. "Instead of common bandits, we're dealing with Zabuza Momochi and at least one accomplice, plus these sound reinforcements." Naruto's report was clinical, emotionless. "Sasuke is injured but mobile. Sakura is protecting the client. Sai is providing aerial reconnaissance. And Kakashi? Fighting Zabuza. It's currently a stalemate, but the sound ninja will tip the balance if they arrive unchecked." Kurenai made her decision instantly. "Hinata, maintain Byakugan surveillance. Shino, spread your insects along our route to warn of additional enemies. Kiba, you and Akamaru take point. Your nose will detect any traps before we trigger them." The Genin nodded, immediately moving into formation with practiced efficiency. "Naruto," Kurenai continued, "can you delay the sound ninja?" A cold smile touched the blonde's lips. "I can do better than delay them." Without waiting for further instructions, he vanished in a burst of speed that left a momentary vacuum in the air. The rest of Team 8 moved out, racing toward their comrade's position. 2 kilometers away, 3 sound ninja moved through the forest with predatory grace, their distinctive melody arm devices glinting in the dappled sunlight. They wore the standard uniform of Orochimaru's village, but the insignia on their shoulders marked them as elite operatives. "Sensors indicate significant chakra discharge ahead," the leader stated, adjusting the frequency dial on his arm. "Likely the Konoha engaging Zabuza." "Perfect timing," his female companion replied. "Once the Demon of the Mist weakens him, we can—" Her words cut off abruptly as a kunai embedded itself in the tree beside her head, a paper tag fluttering from its handle. "Explosive tag!" The third ninja shouted, but his warning came too late. The explosion ripped through the forest canopy, but rather than fire and shrapnel, it released a blinding flash of light and a high-pitched sound that targeted the sound ninja's specialized hearing apparatus. All three clutched their ears in pain, momentarily disoriented. Sound versus sound. Naruto's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. An interesting matchup. The sound leader recovered first, sweeping his melody arm in a wide arc. "Show yourself, Konoha trash!" The sound waves from his device shattered trees and earth alike, creating a cleared zone around the three ninja, but their attacker remained unseen. Three specialized sound manipulators against one speed specialist, Naruto continued, his voice shifting position with each word. Conventional wisdom would suggest you have the advantage. A blur of movement, and suddenly the female sound ninja's melody arm was severed from her limb, blood spraying from the clean cut. She screamed in pain and surprise. Conventional wisdom doesn't account for me. The second sound ninja fired a barrage of senbon needles in the direction of the attack, each needle emitting a high-frequency sound designed to disrupt chakra flow on contact. But they struck only air as Naruto's swift release carried him safely away. "Dosu, Formation 3, the leader barked. The remaining sound ninja immediately positioned themselves back to back, their melody arms extended outward. They began emitting a complex harmonized sound wave that expanded in all directions, a technique designed to make any movement within its range detectable. "Clever," Naruto acknowledged, now standing openly on a branch 20 meters above them. "Using sound waves to track high-speed movement, Orochimaru trained you well." The mention of their master's name caused a moment of hesitation, exactly what Naruto had intended. In that split second, he executed his technique. Swift release, pressure points barrage. What followed was not visible to the human eye. Naruto moved with such speed that the air itself became a weapon, compressed and directed at 64 precise points on each sound ninja's body. The technique was a modification of the Hyuga clan's gentle fist, but instead of using chakra to target tenketsu points, Naruto used pure kinetic energy to strike nerve clusters and pressure points. All three sound ninja collapsed simultaneously, their bodies paralyzed but conscious, exactly as Naruto had intended. He landed silently beside them, blue eyes cold and analytical as he surveyed his work. "Now then, let's discuss why Orochimaru has taken an interest in a simple bridge-building mission." Miles away, the battle between Kakashi and Zabuza had reached a critical juncture. Trapped in Zabuza's water prison technique, Kakashi shouted for his genin to retreat with the bridge builder. But Sasuke Uchiha had other ideas. "We're not leaving you behind," the young Uchiha stated flatly, his hands already forming signs. Fire-style Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Multiple small fireballs shot towards Zabuza, forcing the missing nine to maintain his water prison with one hand, while defending with his massive sword in the other. The fireballs were easily deflected, but they served their purpose as a distraction. From beneath the surface of the lake, ink snakes created by Sai wrapped around Zabuza's ankles, temporarily immobilizing him. It was a minor inconvenience for a jonin of his caliber, but it created the opening Sasuke needed. With a burst of speed that would have made Naruto proud, Sasuke launched himself directly at Zabuza, a kunai aimed for the arm maintaining the water prison. It was a suicide tactic, one that would inevitably result in Zabuza's sword cutting him down. But Sasuke had calculated the risk worth taking to free their sensei. What he hadn't calculated was the intervention of Zabuza's hidden accomplice. Senbon needles shot from the tree line with deadly accuracy, piercing Sasuke's shoulder and thigh. He cried out in pain, his attack falling short as he crashed into the water. "I told you they would interfere, Zabuza-san," came a soft voice as a masked figure stepped into view. "Haku," Zabuza acknowledged. "Deal with the other genin while I finish Kakashi." The masked ninja nodded once before disappearing in a swirl of mist, reappearing directly between Sakura and the bridge builder. Sai immediately launched an ink tiger from his scroll, but Haku's hands formed seals with blinding speed, secret technique, crystal ice mirrors. The air around them crystallized, forming a dome of ice mirrors with Sakura, Sai, and the bridge builder trapped inside. Haku stepped backward into one of the mirrors, their image suddenly reflected in every panel of the dome. "You cannot escape," Haku stated calmly, drawing more senbon. "Please surrender to minimize your suffering." Inside the dome, Sakura moved protectively in front of the bridge builder, kunai raised in a defensive posture. Sai's brush moved rapidly across his scroll, creating more ink beasts, but each was shattered by precisely thrown senbon before it could fully form. "We need to break the mirrors," Sakura whispered to Sai. "Can you use an explosive tag?" "In this confined space, we would be caught in the blast," Sai replied, his emotionless facade finally showing cracks of concern. "We need fire to melt the ice, Sasuke's specialty." Outside the dome, Sasuke struggled to his feet in the shallow water, pulling senbon from his shoulder with a grimace of pain. His eyes blazed with determination as he assessed the situation. Kakashi trapped, his teammates in deadly danger, and his own body failing him. "Is this all the famous Uchiha clan has to offer?" Zabuza taunted, noticing Sasuke's struggle. "Pathetic." Something snapped in Sasuke at those words. A dam of frustration, inadequacy, and rage that had been building since he first witnessed Naruto's effortless mastery. With a cry that was equal parts pain and fury, he channeled every ounce of remaining chakra into his next technique. Fire Style, Great Dragon Flame Jutsu. The technique was far beyond Genin level, a modification of the Great Fireball that required Jonin level chakra control and fire affinity. The massive dragon-shaped flame roared towards Zabuza with such intensity that the surface of the lake began to steam. Forced to choose between maintaining the water prison and avoiding incineration, Zabuza released Kakashi and leapt away. The fire dragon continued its path, crashing into Haku's ice mirror dome from the outside. The mirrors began to melt, but Haku wasn't defeated so easily. The masked ninja leapt between mirrors, reinforcing them with fresh chakra even as they deteriorated. "Impressive but futile," Haku called out. "These mirrors cannot be melted by ordinary fire." "Then how about extraordinary speed?" The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, familiar to the Konoha ninja, but completely alien to their opponents. Suddenly, cracks appeared in every ice mirror simultaneously, spreading like spider webs across their surfaces. "What's happening?" Haku gasped, unable to track the source of the damage. The answer materialized in the center of the dome. Naruto Uzumaki, standing calmly beside Sakura and Sai, not a hair out of place despite moving fast enough to crack reinforced ice. "Your technique has a fundamental flaw," Naruto explained, his tone almost professorial. "While you can move between mirrors at impressive speed, the mirrors themselves remain stationary. They vibrate at a specific frequency, one that I can match and amplify to create resonance fractures." To demonstrate his point, he tapped one finger against the nearest mirror. The entire structure shattered instantly, ice fragments hanging suspended in the air for a moment before crashing to the ground. Haku stood exposed, mask cracked from the forceful dissolution of their technique. "Impossible. Who are you?" Before Naruto could answer, Team 8 arrived on the scene, flanking Zabuza from 3 directions. Kurenai immediately cast a genjutsu, trapping the missing 9 in an illusion of binding tree roots, while Kiba and Akamaru launched into their fang over fang technique. Kakashi, now free and recovering, pushed up his headband to reveal his Sharingan. "It's over, Zabuza. Your Sound Ninja allies have been neutralized, and you're outnumbered 8-1. Zabuza's eyes widened at the mention of Sound Ninja. "I have no allies from Sound. My contract is with Gato alone." This new information caused Naruto and Kakashi to exchange meaningful glances. If Zabuza wasn't working with the Sound Ninja, then Orochimaru had a separate agenda entirely, one that somehow involved this mission. Before they could pursue this line of inquiry, a slow clapping sound echoed across the battlefield. All combatants turned to see a small man in an expensive suit standing at the edge of the incomplete bridge, flanked by dozens of mercenaries. Well, well, the man said with a sneer. The great demon of the mist, defeated by children. I'm glad I decided not to pay you after all, Zabuza. Gato, Zabuza growled, his killing intent spiking despite his injuries. You treacherous worm. Why pay for expensive ninja when hired thugs will do the job once you've weakened each other? Gato laughed, gesturing to his mercenary army. Kill them all, boys, except the women. They might have some entertainment value. The crude threat made Kurenai's eyes narrow dangerously. Hinata shifted into a gentle fist stance while Sakura gripped her kunai tighter. Naruto assessed the situation with cold efficiency. Approximately 50 mercenaries, civilian trained with basic weapons. Kakashi and Kurenai were both depleted of chakra from their respective battles. The genin were in various states of exhaustion or injury, with Sasuke barely standing. Only he remained at near full capacity, having dispatched the sound ninja with minimal effort. "Zabuza," Naruto said quietly, not taking his eyes off Gato, "I propose a temporary alliance." The demon of the mist snorted. "Against these weaklings? I don't need help, kid." "The alliance isn't for fighting them," Naruto clarified. "It's to ensure Gato suffers appropriately for his betrayal. I believe we can both agree he deserves more than a quick death." Something dark and appreciative flickered in Zabuza's eyes. "You've got a nasty streak, Konoha brat. I like it." Haku looked between them uncertainly. "Zabuza-san, you're injured." "Shut up, Haku. I'm not so weak that I need to be protected from trash like Gato." The missing Nin raised his massive sword despite his wounds. "Well, kid, what's your plan?" Naruto's answer was to vanish in a burst of speed that left everyone momentarily disoriented. What followed was not a battle, but a systematic dismantling of Gato's mercenary force. One by one, the hired thugs collapsed with precise, non-lethal strikes to pressure points and nerve clusters. They fell like puppets with cut strings, conscious but completely immobilized. In under 30 seconds, only Gato remained standing, his face pale with terror as he watched his protection eliminated by a blur he could barely perceive. Naruto reappeared beside Zabuza, not even breathing hard. "He's all yours. I've left him physically capable of experiencing everything you might want to do." The vicious smile that spread across Zabuza's face made even some of the Konoha ninja uncomfortable. "You're something else, kid. What's your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki." "Remember it, Haku," Zabuza instructed his apprentice. "That's the name of a true demon." As Zabuza approached the trembling Gato, Kakashi stepped forward. "Naruto, we can't just allow him to." "We won't," Naruto interrupted, his voice low enough that only Kakashi could hear. "But Gato doesn't know that. The fear alone is justice enough." Understanding dawned in Kakashi's visible eye. He nodded slightly and held back, allowing the psychological torture to continue for a few moments longer before finally intervening. "That's enough, Zabuza. Gato will face proper justice in the land of waves." The missing nine looked genuinely disappointed, but stepped back with a shrug. "Fine. He's not worth dirtying my blade anyway." As Gato was secured and the immobilized mercenaries were rounded up, Kurenai approached Naruto with a thoughtful expression. "The interrogation technique you used on the sound ninja," she said quietly. "That's not something we covered in your training." Naruto met her gaze steadily. "No, it's something I developed independently." "Based on Anbu methodologies that aren't available to Genin," she pressed, her tone making it clear this wasn't merely an observation. "Based on what works," Naruto corrected her. "The sound ninja revealed that Orochimaru has taken an interest in Sasuke. Specifically, his Sharingan potential. This entire mission was compromised from the start. The Mist Ninja were hired by Gato, but the Sound Ninja were sent by Orochimaru to observe Sasuke's development." This information visibly disturbed Kurenai. "We need to report this to the Hokage immediately." "Already done," Naruto replied. "I sent a shadow clone back to Konoha with the details while I was dealing with the Sound Ninja. The clone will dissipate once the message is delivered, returning its memories to me." The Jonin stared at him for a long moment. "Sometimes I forget you're still just 12 years old, Naruto." Something flickered across Naruto's expression, a momentary crack in his composed facade. "Age is irrelevant in our profession, Kurenai-sensei. Results are what matter." As he turned away to help secure the prisoners, Kurenai exchanged a concerned glance with Kakashi, who had overheard their conversation. Both Jonin recognized the same troubling pattern, a child being shaped into the perfect weapon, possibly at the cost of his humanity. What neither of them realized was that Naruto himself was acutely aware of this transformation and had accepted it as necessary. In a world where Orochimaru could casually insert operatives into what should have been a simple mission, where children were expected to fight legendary missing nin, what place was there for normal human development? Better to be a perfect weapon than a dead child. The Chunin exams arrived with a tension that permeated Konoha like a physical presence. 6 months had passed since the Wave mission, and its revelations about Orochimaru's interest in Sasuke had put the village on high alert. Teams 7 and 8 had continued their missions with Naruto alternating between them, developing into formidable units that had caught the attention of the other hidden villages. But it was Naruto himself who had become the subject of whispered conversations throughout the ninja world. The second coming of the teleporter, the Phantom of Konoha, the Yellow Blur. Each mission had added to his growing reputation, and by the time the exams were announced, foreign shinobi were specifically requesting information about the blonde prodigy who could reportedly move faster than the Sharingan could track. Now, standing in the Forest of Death for the second phase of the exams, Naruto faced a difficult decision. The Hokage had given him a special dispensation to participate with both of his assigned teams, alternating as needed. But this created a strategic dilemma. Which team needed him more for this survival challenge? "You should go with Hinata's team first," Sasuke said, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. The Uchiha had changed dramatically over the past months, growing both in skill and maturity. Working alongside Naruto had pushed him to develop his own unique fighting style rather than fixating on his brother's techniques. Sasuke's right, Sakura agreed. Her transformation had been even more dramatic, from a fangirl with book smarts to a genuine combat tactician with specialized genjutsu skills. Team 8's tracking abilities make them better suited for the initial phase of locating other teams with scrolls. Once they've identified targets, you can rejoin us for the combat phase. Naruto nodded thoughtfully. Logical, but that leaves you potentially vulnerable during your own reconnaissance. "We're not helpless without you," Sasuke stated flatly, a hint of his old competitive spirit showing through. "I've been working on a new fire technique that should create adequate distractions if needed." Sai, who had gradually integrated into the team despite his odd mannerisms, added his own assessment. "My ink birds can provide aerial surveillance without exposing our position. We will locate a suitable target and establish a defensible position to await your return." The strategy made sense. Naruto performed a quick calculation of probabilities and nodded. "Agreed. I'll meet you at checkpoint 3 within 12 hours. If I haven't arrived by then, proceed without me." As Team 7 disappeared into the dense forest, Naruto rejoined Team 8 at their designated starting point. Kurenai had already departed, as Jonin instructors weren't permitted inside the Forest of Death during the exam. "There you are," Kiba greeted with his typical brashness. "We were starting to think you'd abandoned us for the Uchiha." "Unlikely," Shino observed in his monotone voice. "Why? Because Naruto's logical approach to mission parameters precludes emotional decision-making." Hinata simply offered a small smile, her confidence having grown significantly during their months of training together. Of all his teammates, she was perhaps the one who best understood Naruto's methodical nature. "We need an Earth Scroll," Naruto stated, getting directly to business. "Hinata, what's our immediate perimeter look like?" The Hyuga heiress activated her Byakugan, veins bulging around her pale eyes as she scanned their surroundings. 3 teams within 1 kilometer. Sand Ninja at 2 o'clock, approximately 800 meters. Grass Ninja at 10 o'clock, 650 meters. Leaf Ninja, I believe it's Team 10, at 6 o'clock, just over a kilometer away. Any signs of pursuit or observation directed at us? Hinata focused her vision more intensely. The grass team seems unusual. Their chakra signatures are distorted, especially the kunoichi leading them. Naruto instantly became more alert. Distorted how? It's as if there's a second chakra system overlaid on her natural one. I've never seen anything like it before. This information set off immediate warning flags in Naruto's analytical mind. Change of plans. We're avoiding the grass team entirely. Kiba, can you pick up their scent from here? The Inuzuka inhaled deeply, his enhanced sense of smell sifting through the forest odors. Beside him, Akamaru whined uneasily. "Yeah, and Akamaru doesn't like it. Says they smell like snakes and death." Naruto's eyes narrowed. Snakes. The connection to Orochimaru was impossible to ignore, especially given the intelligence gathered from the Sound Ninja months earlier. If the Snake Sannin had infiltrated the exams personally, the situation was far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. "We need to warn the other teams," Naruto decided, particularly Team 7. "Why?" Kiba asked. "If there's danger, shouldn't we just report it to the proctors?" "Because if I'm right, Sasuke is the target." Naruto's voice had taken on an edge that his teammates rarely heard. "Shino, Can your insects locate Team 7 without being detected? The Aburame nodded, releasing a small cloud of insects from his sleeve. They will follow their chakra signatures discreetly. Good. Hinata, maintain Byakugan surveillance on the grass team. Kiba, you and Akamaru establish a perimeter of scent markers to alert us if they approach. Naruto's commands came rapidly but clearly. I'm going to create a shadow clone to warn the nearest exam proctor while we track Team 7. As his teammates moved to execute their tasks, Naruto formed the familiar cross-shaped hand sign. A perfect copy of himself materialized beside him, nodded once in silent understanding, and vanished in a burst of speed toward the edge of the forest. Hinata, Naruto continued, what's the most direct route to intercept Team 7 based on their last known trajectory? The Hyuga focused her Byakugan again. They're moving northwest, approximately 2 kilometers from our position. There's a clearing ahead where they appear to be setting up a temporary base. Perfect. Naruto's instructions were cut short by a massive surge of killing intent that washed over the forest like a physical wave. Birds scattered from trees in panic, and small animals fled in terror. Even the seasoned genin of teammate felt their hearts race with primal fear. What the hell was that? Kiba gasped, Akamaru whimpering beside him. A predator, Naruto answered grimly. And I think I know who it's hunting. Change of plans. We move to intercept immediately. Formation Delta, maximum speed. Without waiting for acknowledgement, Naruto launched himself through the trees, pushing his speed to levels that his teammates could barely match. Behind him, teammate followed with grim determination, sensing the urgency even if they didn't fully understand the danger. 2 kilometers away, Team 7 had indeed established a temporary base in a small clearing, concealed by Sai's ink fog technique. Sasuke was completing the setup of perimeter traps while Sakura organized their supplies. Someone's coming, Sai announced suddenly, his enhanced senses detecting movement in the forest canopy. Fast! Multiple targets. Sasuke immediately activated his Sharingan, recently awakened during a particularly intense training session with Naruto. Get ready. Could be an ambush. The 3 genin formed a defensive triangle, weapons drawn, as they waited for the approaching threat to reveal itself. What emerged from the tree line, however, was not what any of them expected. A single grass ninja, a woman with unnaturally pale skin, landed gracefully in the clearing. Her mouth stretched into a smile that was too wide, too predatory to be human. Sasuke Uchiha, she purred, her voice sending involuntary shivers down the genin's spines. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Sasuke's Sharingan spun warily. What do you want? To test your capacity, of course. The woman's tongue extended impossibly far from her mouth as she produced an Earth Scroll, the exact complement to Team 7's Heaven Scroll. And to offer you a little incentive. Sai moved first, his brush flashing across his scroll to create 3 ink lions that charged the grass ninja. The attack was precise and well executed, but utterly ineffective. The woman weaved between the constructs with inhuman flexibility, destroying each with casual taps of her fingers. How disappointing, she sighed. I expected more from Danzo's little project. The reference to Danzo made Sai falter momentarily, a reaction that didn't go unnoticed by his teammates. But there was no time to question it, as the grass ninja formed a series of hand signs too fast for even Sasuke's Sharingan to fully track. Wind style. Great breakthrough. The gale force wind that erupted from the woman's mouth was far beyond genin level, or even jonin level. It shredded the trees behind Team 7, and would have done the same to the genin if Sasuke hadn't reacted with remarkable speed. Fire style. Great dragon flame wall. The massive wall of fire that roared to life before them momentarily countered the wind technique, creating a swirling vortex of flame and air that gave Team 7 precious seconds to reposition. Sakura immediately launched 3 kunai with explosive tags toward the grass ninja, while Sai created an ink eagle to gain aerial advantage. The grass ninja dodged the explosions with contemptuous ease, her body bending at impossible angles. Better, but still not good enough, Sasuke-kun. Show me the power of those eyes. Something in her tone, in the way she fixated on his Sharingan, triggered a realization in Sasuke's mind. You're not here for the exam at all, are you? The woman's smile widened further, splitting her face in a grotesque parody of human expression. Clever boy. No, I have a much greater purpose. With deliberate slowness, she reached up and pulled at the skin of her face, peeling it away to reveal another countenance beneath, pale, serpentine, with yellow slitted eyes. Orochimaru, Sakura gasped, recognizing the infamous missing nin from her studies. The very same, he acknowledged with a mocking bow. And you, my dear Sasuke, are the reason for my visit to this charming little event. Before any of the genin could react further, Orochimaru's killing intent flooded the clearing with such intensity that all three found themselves paralyzed, experiencing vivid visions of their own deaths. It was a genjutsu beyond anything they had trained to resist, a pure manifestation of predatory malice. Now then, Orochimaru hissed, approaching the immobilized Uchiha, let's see if you're worthy of my gift. He was 3 steps away from Sasuke when the air between them distorted, and a foot connected solidly with his chest, sending him flying backward into a tree with enough force to crack the massive trunk. Naruto Uzumaki stood protectively before his teammates, his expression cold and focused. Orochimaru of the Sannin, you're a long way from Sound Village. The snake Sannin extracted himself from the shattered tree, his expression showing genuine surprise before shifting to amused interest. The famous prodigy, I presume? The second coming of the teleporter? Your reputation precedes you, Naruto Uzumaki. As does yours, Naruto replied evenly, making a subtle hand gesture behind his back that Team 8, now arriving at the edge of the clearing, recognized as their signal to remain concealed. Though I didn't expect someone of your caliber to be hunting genin in a training exercise. Orochimaru laughed, a chilling sound that echoed unnaturally through the forest. Oh, I'm not here for just any genin. I have a particular interest in young Sasuke's development. The Sharingan, Naruto stated flatly. Your obsession with Kekkei Genkai is well documented. Says the boy who mastered Shisui's techniques without the benefit of Uchiha blood, Orochimaru countered, his serpentine eyes gleaming with malicious intelligence. We're not so different, you and I, both seeking power beyond our natural limitations. Naruto's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his blue eyes. The difference is in how we obtain that power, and who we use it against. With that, he vanished in a burst of speed that even Orochimaru's experienced eyes struggled to track. The Sannin barely managed to raise his arm to block the kick aimed at his temple, but the force still sent him skidding backward. Impressive, Orochimaru acknowledged, his tongue flicking out to taste the air. But speed alone won't be enough against me, boy. I'm counting on that, Naruto replied, his hands already forming seals. Water-style, water bullet barrage. Without a nearby water source, the technique should have been impossible. But Naruto had long since learned to extract moisture from the air itself, a skill that required Jonin-level chakra control. Dozens of compressed water bullets shot toward Orochimaru from multiple angles, forcing the Sannin to display his legendary flexibility as he twisted between them. But the water bullets were just a distraction. The real attack came from below as Sasuke, finally breaking free of the paralysis genjutsu, erupted from the ground with a lightning-coated kunai aimed at Orochimaru's heart. Chidori Sharp Spear! The Uchiha shouted, the lightning extending from his kunai in a piercing lance. Orochimaru's eyes widened in genuine surprise, not at the attack itself, but at the fact that a genin had mastered a lightning nature transformation to this degree. He contorted his body impossibly to avoid the worst of the strike, but the lightning spear still carved a deep gash across his shoulder. Kakashi's technique, the Sannin observed with a pained smile, but modified. Your potential truly is remarkable, Sasuke-kun. From above, Sai's Ink Eagle dive-bombed with explosive tags attached to its wings, while Sakura synchronized a genjutsu designed to distort Orochimaru's depth perception. It was a coordinated assault that would have overwhelmed most Jonin. But Orochimaru was a Sannin. With a casual gesture, he summoned a massive snake that intercepted Sai's eagle, while simultaneously releasing a pulse of chakra that shattered Sakura's genjutsu. Then, moving with speed that rivaled even Naruto's, he struck Sasuke with an open palm blow that sent the Uchiha crashing into Sakura, both of them tumbling across the clearing. Enough games, Orochimaru declared, forming a complex sequence of hand signs. Let's see how you handle this. Summoning, triple Rashomon. 3 massive demonic gates erupted from the earth, creating a barrier between Orochimaru and the Konoha Genin. It was a technique designed to withstand village-level attacks, complete overkill against a group of children, regardless of their talent, or so Orochimaru thought. Swift release, resonant strike. Naruto's voice came from directly behind him, inside his supposedly impenetrable defense. The Sannin spun, genuinely shocked to find the blonde standing calmly within his barrier. But more shocking was what happened next. Naruto didn't attack Orochimaru directly. Instead, he placed his palm against one of the Rashomon gates and channeled a precise frequency of chakra into the structure. The massive gate began to vibrate, the vibrations intensifying until cracks appeared across its surface. Impossible, Orochimaru breathed, watching as one of his strongest defensive techniques began to disintegrate from within. Resonance, Naruto explained, his tone almost academic despite the circumstances. Every structure has a natural frequency at which it becomes unstable. Even legendary techniques have fundamental weaknesses if you understand their underlying principles. As the first gate crumbled, Naruto was already moving to the second, his hand glowing with the same precisely calibrated chakra. Orochimaru, recovering from his surprise, struck with the Kusanagi blade that extended from his mouth, a killing blow aimed at Naruto's exposed back. But the blade passed through empty air as Naruto's swift release carried him safely to the third gate, which began vibrating with the same destructive resonance. Within seconds, all three Rashomon gates were reduced to rubble, leaving Orochimaru exposed to the combined attack of Team 7 and 8. Now! Naruto commanded. Hinata and Sasuke charged from opposite directions, the Hyuga's gentle fist and the Uchiha's lightning-enhanced taijutsu forming a perfect pincer movement. Shino's insects descended in a living cloud, while Kiba and Akamaru spiraled through the air in their fang-over-fang technique. Sakura and Sai provided ranged support with precisely timed kunai and ink beasts. It was a flawlessly executed combination attack, one that would have decimated any normal opponent. But against a Sannin, it was merely enough to create an opening that Naruto had been counting on. As Orochimaru defended against the multi-layered assault, Naruto appeared directly before him, hands forming a seal that the Sannin didn't recognize. Swift release, phantom bind. The air around Orochimaru shimmered with yellow light as Naruto's afterimages, usually just visual artifacts of his extreme speed, suddenly solidified into chakra constructs. These constructs latched onto the Sannin's limbs, temporarily restricting his movement by a crucial fraction of a second. Just long enough for Naruto to place a 5-element seal directly over Orochimaru's heart. The Sannin's yellow eyes widened in genuine shock as he felt the powerful sealing technique take hold, temporarily disrupting his chakra network. A sealing specialist as well? You continue to surprise me, Naruto-kun. But Orochimaru was not one of the legendary Sannin for nothing. Even with his chakra disrupted and his body restrained, he managed to perform a substitution technique using a nearby snake, appearing several meters away with a calculating expression. Most impressive, he acknowledged, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. In all my years, I've rarely been pushed this far by genin, even exceptional ones. Then perhaps you should reconsider your interest in Sasuke, Naruto suggested, his stance deceptively relaxed despite his heightened readiness. Orochimaru laughed softly. On the contrary, this demonstration has only confirmed the potential I sensed. Though I must admit, you yourself have proven equally intriguing, Naruto-kun. His serpentine gaze shifted between the blonde and Sasuke. Such power in one so young. I wonder what you might become with the proper guidance. We already have guidance, Sasuke stated firmly, moving to stand beside Naruto. And it doesn't involve missing nin with disturbing fixations on children. The casual insult made Orochimaru's expression darken momentarily before he regained his composure. Well, it seems I've overstayed my welcome for now, but don't worry, we'll meet again very soon. With that ominous promise, the Sannin melted into the ground, leaving behind only a lingering sense of malice and the devastated clearing as evidence of the encounter. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the combined genin teams took stock of their situation. Despite facing one of the most dangerous ninja in the world, they had emerged relatively unscathed, a testament to their growth and, more significantly, to Naruto's leadership. How did you know? Sasuke asked quietly, his Sharingan fading as he conserved his remaining chakra. About Orochimaru. Hinata spotted anomalies in the grass team's chakra signatures, Naruto explained. Combined with Kiba's detection of snake sense and the intelligence we gathered from the Sound Ninja months ago, the conclusion was obvious. Your shadow clone reached the Proctors? Shino inquired. Naruto nodded. Anbu should be converging on this location now, though they're too late to apprehend him. That sealing technique, Hinata said, her Byakugan still active as she scanned for additional threats. It wasn't something we covered in training. A brief silence fell over the group as they all recognized the implication of her observation. Naruto had once again displayed abilities far beyond what could be explained by his official training. I study independently, he stated simply, neither confirming nor denying the unspoken question about where he had learned such advanced techniques. Before anyone could press further, a squad of Anbu dropped silently into the clearing, led by a purple-haired woman in a cat mask. Report, she commanded tersely. Naruto stepped forward, delivering a concise summary of their encounter with Orochimaru, including the Sanin's specific interest in Sasuke's Sharingan. The Anbu captain listened impassively before turning to her squad. Secure the perimeter. Search pattern Epsilon for any traces of Orochimaru's chakra signature. As her subordinates dispersed, she addressed the Genin again. By order of the Hokage, all of you are to proceed directly to the central tower. This phase of the exam is suspended for your teams pending full debriefing. What about our scrolls? Kiba protested. We haven't completed the objective. The Anbu captain's mask tilted slightly. Consider your encounter with an S-rank missing nun adequate compensation for any examination requirements. You've more than proven your capabilities today. As the Genin gathered their equipment, preparing to move out under Anbu escort, Sasuke approached Naruto with an uncharacteristically thoughtful expression. That technique you used to destroy the Rashomon gates, he said quietly. The resonance thing. Could you teach me how it works? Naruto studied his teammate for a moment, searching for the jealousy or competitive anger that had characterized their early interactions. Finding none, he nodded once. It requires precise chakra control and an understanding of vibrational physics, but yes, I can teach you the principles. Sasuke's lips curved in a small smile. Thanks. And Naruto, good work today. It was a simple acknowledgement, but coming from Sasuke Uchiha, it represented a significant evolution in their relationship. Where once there had been resentment and rivalry, there was now a growing respect, perhaps even the beginnings of friendship. As the combined teams moved through the forest toward the central tower, Naruto found himself reflecting on Orochimaru's parting words. The Sanin had seen something in both him and Sasuke, a potential that he coveted for his own purposes. The difference, Naruto knew, was that he understood exactly what he was becoming and had made peace with it. He was a weapon forged in isolation, owned through calculated development, and now deployed with strategic precision. If that reality disturbed his Jonin instructors or worried the Hokage, so be it. Because in a world where children faced opponents like Orochimaru, being merely human wasn't enough. The arena erupted in thunderous applause as Naruto Uzumaki stood victorious in the center of the battlefield. Across from him, Gaara of the Sand lay unconscious but alive, the shattered remains of his ultimate sand defense scattered across the arena floor. The final match of the Chunin exam finals had lived up to its billing as a clash between two of the most formidable Genin in the 5 nations. For nearly 30 minutes, the spectators had been treated to a display of skill, power, and tactical brilliance that many Jonin couldn't match. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha, the proctor announced, his voice barely audible over the roaring crowd. In the Kage viewing box, Hiruzen Sarutobi allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. Beside him, the Kazekage's expression was hidden behind a ceremonial veil, but the tension in his posture was unmistakable. Quite impressive, the Kazekage remarked, his voice carefully controlled. To defeat a Jinchuriki without using the same power, your Uzumaki boy is remarkable. Naruto has always been exceptional, Hiruzen agreed, deliberately avoiding any mention of the 9 tails sealed within the victor. Though I must say, your son's control of sand was equally impressive. The Kazekage's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on his armrest. Yes, a pity he couldn't maintain it to the end. Below, Medical Ninja had entered the arena to attend to Gaara, while Naruto stood patiently awaiting formal dismissal. His black and dark blue uniform showed signs of battle, torn in places, stained with blood and sand, but his posture remained perfect, his breathing calm and measured. To the uninformed observer, he appeared untouched by the exhaustion that should have followed such an intense battle. Only those with trained eyes could see the minute trembling in his left hand, a sign of approaching chakra depletion that he was skillfully concealing. From the competitor's box, Sasuke watched his teammate with a complex mixture of emotions. Pride in Naruto's victory warred with the competitive drive that still pushed him to match the blonde's achievements. But unlike the bitter jealousy that might have consumed him in another timeline, this Sasuke had learned to channel his competitive spirit into productive growth. He used the resonance technique, Sasuke observed to Kakashi, who stood beside him. That's how he shattered Gaara's ultimate defense. Kakashi nodded. After you successfully used it against Temari in your match, Gaara should have been prepared for it, but Naruto added a twist. He layered multiple frequencies simultaneously, making it impossible to adapt. Constantly evolving, Sasuke murmured, always one step ahead. Down in the medical area, Sakura was helping treat the injuries sustained by the other competitors. Her exceptional chakra control had made her a natural fit for medical ninjutsu, a path she had begun pursuing after the Forest of Death incident. Now, her hands glowed green as she mended a deep cut on Hinata's arm, a souvenir from her surprisingly competitive semifinal match against Temari. Naruto did it, Sakura said with a smile as she completed the healing. Though I never doubted he would. Hinata nodded, her pale eyes following the blonde champion as he finally exited the arena. He's amazing, but did you notice his hand trembling at the end? He pushed himself to the absolute limit against Gaara. That's what makes him Naruto, Sakura replied. He never holds back when it matters, regardless of the personal cost. The observation was more insightful than either girl realized. Throughout his development, Naruto had calculated every action, measured every expenditure of energy, and strategized every encounter, except when protecting those he considered important. In those moments, the cold efficiency gave way to something more primal, more reminiscent of the boy he might have been in another life. As the stadium began to empty following the conclusion of the finals, an unusual stillness fell over the assembled ninja in the competitors' area. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed as he scanned the crowd, sensing something amiss. "Sasuke," he said quietly, "gather the other genin. Something's wrong." The young Uchiha nodded, immediately alert to his sensei's concern. Years of training had taught him to trust Kakashi's instincts implicitly. The reason for that concern became apparent moments later when feathers began to drift down from the sky, a masked genjutsu designed to put civilians to sleep while leaving trained ninja unaffected. Throughout the stadium, Konoha shinobi were already forming defense positions, recognizing the signs of an impending attack. In the Kage box, Hiruzen had risen to his feet, eyes fixed on the Kazekage with cold certainty. "I was wondering when you would make your move." Orochimaru. The Kazekage's eyes widened briefly before his face split into that unnaturally wide smile. "As perceptive as ever, old man. I had hoped to wait until the chaos was in full swing, but it seems my patience has run out." With a violent motion, he tore away the Kazekage robes and face covering, revealing the pale, serpentine features of Orochimaru. Around them, 4 sound ninja appeared, immediately forming a barrier technique that isolated the 2 legendary shinobi from outside interference. "Your ambition hasn't changed, I see," Hiruzen observed, removing his ceremonial Hokage robes to reveal battle armor beneath, still seeking to destroy what you cannot control. Orochimaru's laughter echoed within their enclosed battlefield. "Oh, it's so much more than that now, Sarutobi-sensei. Today marks the beginning of Konoha's end, and the rise of Sound Village as the dominant power in the shinobi world." As the 2 powerful ninja engaged in what would become their final battle, chaos erupted throughout Konoha. Sand and Sound Ninja, previously disguised as civilians and visiting dignitaries, launched coordinated attacks against strategic targets throughout the village. But the invaders had underestimated Konoha's preparedness. Since the encounter with Orochimaru during the Forest of Death phase, Hiruzen had quietly reinforced the village's defenses, positioning ambush squads at key locations and establishing emergency response protocols. And then there was Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde prodigy emerged from the medical tent where he had been briefly examined, his chakra partially replenished by soldier pills. His blue eyes took in the developing battle with analytical precision, quickly identifying patterns in the enemy movements. "Kakashi-sensei," he called, spotting the silver-haired Jonin organizing a defensive perimeter with several other Konoha ninja. The enemy is focusing on 3 primary targets: the academy, the Hokage Tower, and the hospital. Kakashi nodded grimly. Civilian-heavy locations. They're trying to maximize casualties to demoralize resistance. He turned to the assembled Konoha forces. "Guy, take your team and secure the academy. Asuma, the hospital needs your team's defensive capabilities. I'll coordinate the response at the Hokage Tower." "What about us?" Sasuke asked, indicating the gathered genin from Teams 7 and 8. "You're with me," Naruto answered before Kakashi could respond. "We have a special target." Kakashi raised an eyebrow. "Care to share with the class, Naruto?" "Gaara," the blonde replied simply. "He's been moved from the medical area, but not by our medical ninja. His siblings extracted him during the initial confusion." "You think he's part of the invasion plan?" Kakashi asked. Naruto nodded. "A Jinchuriki is too valuable a weapon to waste. They'll attempt to deploy him once he regains consciousness, likely at a critical juncture to maximize psychological impact." "Then stopping him is a priority," Kakashi acknowledged. "But are you sure you're recovered enough to lead this pursuit?" For a brief moment, something like emotion flickered across Naruto's face. Irritation, perhaps, at having his capabilities questioned. "I'm operational." The clinical self-assessment said more than a lengthy explanation could have. Kakashi nodded once, recognizing that arguing would only waste precious time. "Take Teams 7 and 8. Intercept and neutralize if possible. Delay if necessary. I'm authorizing full tactical discretion." "Understood." Naruto turned to his assembled peers. "Hinata, use your Byakugan to track Gaara's chakra signature. Kiba and Akamaru, follow his scent trail. Shino, deploy your insects in a standard search pattern to identify any additional enemy forces in our path. Sasuke, you're my combat second. Sakura, prepare your medical supplies. We'll likely need them. Sai, aerial reconnaissance." The genin moved with practiced efficiency, each falling into their assigned role without question. This was no longer a group of individual ninja, but a coordinated unit shaped by months of joint training and missions. As they prepared to depart, Kakashi placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Remember, your primary responsibility is to your team's safety. Even Gaara isn't worth sacrificing any of your comrades." Something softened in Naruto's expression, a brief glimpse of the child beneath the prodigy. "I know, Sensei. I'll bring them all back." With that promise, he led his team into the chaos of the village under siege, moving with purpose toward the eastern wall where Hinata had detected Gaara's distinctive chakra signature. What followed was a pursuit that would later be recounted in Konoha's military academies as a textbook example of tactical coordination. Using Naruto's swift release as their transportation method, the team leapfrogged through the village in coordinated bursts, avoiding major conflict zones while neutralizing enemy scouts with silent efficiency. When they finally caught up to the Sand siblings in a forest clearing 2 kilometers outside the village, Gaara was already beginning to stir, the sand around him swirling with ominous purpose. "Halt!" Naruto commanded, his voice carrying clearly across the clearing. "Surrender Gaara and withdraw immediately." Temari and Kankuro positioned themselves protectively in front of their younger brother, weapons ready. Behind them, Gaara groaned, clutching his head as the seal containing Shukaku weakened from the stress of his earlier defeat. "You don't understand what you're interfering with," Temari called back, her fan partially open in a defensive stance. "This goes beyond a simple invasion." "Orochimaru's manipulation of your village, you mean?" Naruto replied, causing both Sand siblings to flinch in surprise. "We're aware that he likely assassinated and impersonated your father. That doesn't change our mission to neutralize Gaara." Kankuro glanced nervously at his brother, whose breathing had become increasingly labored. "You don't get it. Once Gaara transforms, none of us will be able to stop him. Not even us," Not even you. Transforms? Sakura whispered to Sasuke. What are they talking about? The one tail, Naruto answered, his enhanced hearing catching her question. Gaara is a Jinchuriki like me, but his seal is fundamentally flawed. It allows Shukaku to influence his mind even when he's awake and takes over completely when he sleeps. This revelation caused a ripple of tension through the Konoha Genin. While they had all known about Naruto's status as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the practical implications of facing another tailed beast had not fully registered until this moment. What's the plan? Sasuke asked quietly, his Sharingan activated as he assessed Gaara's fluctuating chakra. Naruto's response was interrupted by a scream from Gaara as sand erupted around him, forming a partial manifestation of Shukaku's arm. His face had begun to transform as well. One side taking on the Tanuki's features, while his eyes changed to the beast's distinctive gold with black stars. Kill them, Gaara growled, his voice distorted and overlaid with a deeper, more menacing tone. Prove my existence by ending theirs. Temari and Kankuro leapt away as their brother's transformed arm swept across the clearing, sending deadly sand shuriken in all directions. The Konoha Genin scattered, each moving according to the defensive protocols they had established during training. Containment first, then seal reinforcement, Naruto ordered, his hands already forming the necessary signs. Hinata, Sasuke, target the junction points where human and tailed beast chakra merge. Shino, use your insects to absorb chakra from those same points. Kiba, Sakura, Sai, defensive perimeter to prevent interference or escape. As his teammates moved to execute his instructions, Naruto created 4 shadow clones, each forming a different seal. I'll prepare the suppression technique. Sasuke and Hinata engaged Gaara directly, using their respective visual prowess to identify and strike at the weakest points in his transformation. The gentle fist was particularly effective, temporarily disrupting the chakra flow that sustained Shukaku's manifestation, while Sasuke's lightning techniques destabilized the sand constructs. Shino's insects formed a living cloud that descended on Gaara, attaching to the areas Hinata and Sasuke had targeted and draining chakra at a careful rate, enough to weaken the transformation without triggering a defensive surge that might accelerate it. Meanwhile, Naruto and his clones had completed a complex array of seals, creating a modified version of the 5-element seal that had temporarily disrupted Orochimaru's chakra. This variation, however, was designed specifically to reinforce an existing Jinchuriki seal rather than create a new one. Now, Naruto commanded, as Gaara momentarily staggered under the combined assault. With a burst of swift release, he appeared directly before the transforming Jinchuriki, all 5 versions of himself striking simultaneously at different points on Gaara's body. The sealing array glowed with brilliant blue light as it made contact, temporarily overwhelming Shukaku's influence. Gaara screamed, a sound of equal parts rage and relief. As the transformation receded, the sand falling away to reveal his human form once more. He collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily, his eyes gradually returning to their normal appearance. What did you do to me? He gasped, looking up at Naruto with a mixture of fear and wonder. Temporary seal reinforcement, Naruto explained, dismissing his shadow clones as he maintained a cautious distance. It won't last forever, but it should hold long enough for us to resolve the situation. Temari and Kankuro approached warily, clearly stunned by what they had witnessed. You suppressed Shukaku, Temari murmured. No one's ever been able to do that once the transformation began. Because no one understood what they were dealing with, Naruto replied. A Jinchuriki's seal is a complex matrix of Fuinjutsu principles. Your village used an inferior design based on outdated theories of chakra containment. Can you fix it? Gaara asked, his voice small and strangely vulnerable. Permanently? The question caught Naruto off guard. It was the first time since his earliest childhood that someone had genuinely surprised him, a novel experience that momentarily disrupted his calculated demeanor. Not here. Not now, he answered honestly. A proper seal reconfiguration would require extensive preparation, specialized equipment, and ideally the supervision of a master sealing expert. Like Jiraiya of the Sannin, Sasuke added, joining them as the immediate threat appeared to have passed. Naruto nodded. Exactly. Then take me to Konoha, Gaara said with sudden determination. If you can silence the voice, even temporarily, I want it gone forever. Temari stepped forward protectively. Gaara, you can't just... Enough, Temari, the redhead interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument despite his weakened state. I've lived with this madness my entire life. If there's even a chance for peace, I'll take it. Naruto studied the other Jinchuriki thoughtfully. The strategic implications of bringing an enemy weapon into Konoha during an invasion were complex, but the potential long-term advantages of rehabilitating Gaara, both as an individual and as a political asset, were significant. There are conditions, he said finally. You will be under constant surveillance. Your siblings can accompany you, but they will also be restricted, and you will provide all intelligence you possess regarding the invasion plans. Agreed, Gaara replied without hesitation. Kankuro looked like he wanted to object, but remained silent after a warning glance from his brother. Temari, however, was more practical. The primary thrust of the invasion is concentrated on the stadium and administrative district, she explained. 4 advance teams were tasked with disabling the barrier seals around the village perimeter. The overall strategy relied heavily on Gaara's transformation creating chaos at a critical moment, which obviously isn't happening now. And Orochimaru's role? Naruto pressed. He approached our father with the invasion plan 3 months ago. We don't know when he actually replaced him, only that orders began changing subtly about 4 weeks back. Naruto processed this information quickly, formulating a revised strategy. Sasuke, take Shino and Kiba. Return to Konoha and relay this intelligence to Kakashi-sensei or any available Jonin commander. Specifically mention the barrier seals. If they're compromised, our defensive capabilities are severely limited. Sasuke nodded. What about you? I'll escort our guests back to Konoha by an alternate route. Hinata, Sakura, and Sai will accompany me. We'll rendezvous at Checkpoint Delta once the situation is stabilized. As the team split according to Naruto's instructions, Gaara watched the blonde Jinchuriki with unconcealed fascination. You command them so easily, he observed, and they follow without question. Not because they fear me, Naruto replied, understanding the unspoken comparison to Gaara's relationship with his siblings, but because they trust my judgment. Trust, Gaara repeated the word as if testing an unfamiliar concept. I'm not sure I understand the difference. For the first time that day, Naruto smiled, a small, genuine expression that transformed his usually serious features. That's the first thing we'll work on, then. As they began their journey back to Konoha, moving carefully to avoid enemy patrols, neither Jinchuriki could have predicted how this unexpected alliance would reshape the future of the shinobi world. The aftermath of what became known as the Sound Sand Invasion marked a turning point in Konoha's history. The village had repelled the attack with surprisingly few casualties, thanks largely to the advance warning provided by Naruto's team and the Hokage's preparations following the Forest of Death incident. But the victory had come at a terrible cost. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, had given his life to stop Orochimaru, using the forbidden Death Reaper seal to permanently disable the Snake Sanin's arms, rendering him incapable of performing jutsu. Though Orochimaru had escaped, his threat was significantly diminished, and his hidden village left in disarray. 1 month after the invasion, Naruto stood before the village council in the renovated administrative building, his posture perfect as he delivered his mission report. At 13, he had already been promoted to Chunin along with Sasuke, Shikamaru Nara, and surprisingly, Hinata Hyuga. The diplomatic mission to Suna was successful, he concluded, his voice clear and measured. With Gaara's seal properly reconstructed by Master Jiraiya, relations between our villages have stabilized. The new Kazekage, Baki, has signed a formal apology and restitution agreement acknowledging Orochimaru's manipulation of their government. Homura Mitokado, one of the village elders, nodded approvingly. Excellent work, Naruto. The speed with which you've helped normalize relations is commendable. Indeed, agreed Koharu Tatane, the other elder, though we must discuss your unconventional decision to reveal sealing techniques to the Sand Village as part of the agreement. Naruto met her gaze steadily. The techniques shared were basic stability matrices only, nothing that could be used offensively or to extract a tailed beast. Furthermore, having a stable Jinchuriki in Suna serves Konoha's interests more effectively than leaving Gaara vulnerable to another Shikaku episode. Danzo Shimura, seated in the shadow of a pillar, studied the young Chunin with calculating interest. Your strategic thinking continues to impress Uzumaki, though some might question whether a 13-year-old should be making such significant diplomatic decisions independently. The subtle challenge did not go unnoticed. Naruto inclined his head slightly, acknowledging the criticism without accepting it. I operated within the parameters established by acting Hokage Jiraiya. All final agreements were reviewed and approved by him before implementation. Speaking of our acting Hokage, Homura interjected, clearly wanting to move past the tension. Have you received any communication regarding his search for Tsunade? Master Jiraiya's last message indicated they had tracked her to Tanzaku Town, Naruto replied. He anticipated making contact within the week. What Naruto didn't mention was that Jiraiya had specifically requested his presence for that meeting, a detail he had been instructed to keep confidential. The Sannin had recognized that Tsunade might respond more favorably to another medical prodigy, and Sakura had been developing her healing abilities at an impressive rate under Naruto's tactical guidance. Very well, Koharu concluded. You're dismissed, Naruto. Please submit your written report by tomorrow. As Naruto bowed and turned to leave, Danzo's voice stopped him at the door. One moment, Uzumaki. There's the matter of your teammate, Sai. Naruto turned slowly, his expression carefully neutral. What about him? He's been reassigned to specialized duties, Danzo stated flatly. Effective immediately. The announcement wasn't unexpected. Naruto had known since their first meeting that Sai was Danzo's agent, placed on Team 7 to monitor both him and Sasuke. The fact that Danzo was now recalling his operative suggested a shift in the power dynamics within Konoha's leadership, likely in response to Hiruzen's death. I see, Naruto replied, revealing nothing of his thoughts on the matter. Will Team 7 be receiving a replacement? That will be for the new Hokage to decide, Homura answered. For now, you'll continue operating as a 3-person cell with Kakashi and your remaining teammates. Naruto bowed again and exited the chamber, his mind already analyzing the implications of this development. Danzo's increased boldness suggested he was positioning himself as a candidate for the Hokage position, using his root operatives to consolidate power while Jiraiya was absent from the village. Outside the administrative building, Sasuke was waiting, leaning against a tree with his arms crossed. The Uchiha had changed significantly since the invasion, his trademark blue shirt and white shorts replaced by a more practical black combat uniform similar to Naruto's. His hair was shorter too, cut to prevent it from obstructing his vision during combat. How did it go? He asked as Naruto approached. As expected, Naruto replied. Sai has been reassigned. Sasuke's expression tightened. Danzo's making his move then. Most likely, the timing is strategic. With Jiraiya away and the village still recovering, there's a temporary power vacuum. They began walking toward the training grounds, their conversation kept carefully low to avoid eavesdroppers. Since the invasion, both young ninja had become increasingly aware of the political currents running beneath Konoha's surface, currents that had always been there but were now exposed by Hiruzen's absence. What's our play? Sasuke asked, the question indicating just how much their relationship had evolved. Where once he would have rejected any suggestion of following Naruto's lead, he now recognized the value of their complementary abilities. For now, we observe, Naruto decided. Jiraiya should return with Tsunade within 2 weeks. Until then, we focus on training and recovery. Sasuke nodded, but his dark eyes remained troubled. And if Danzo moves against us directly, he's never made a secret of his interest in the Sharingan or the Nine Tails. It was a legitimate concern. Danzo's root organization operated in the shadows, pursuing an agenda that often diverged from the official policies of Konoha. With Hiruzen no longer acting as a check on his old rival's ambitions, both Sasuke and Naruto represented tempting assets for appropriation. If that happens, Naruto said, his voice taking on a harder edge, will demonstrate why attempting to control us would be his final mistake. The cold certainty in his tone wasn't bravado. It was a calculated assessment based on their combined capabilities. Sasuke had mastered several of Naruto's resonance techniques, adapting them to work with his lightning affinity to devastating effect. Meanwhile, Naruto had continued refining his swift release, reaching speeds that even Kakashi's Sharingan struggled to track. Together, they had become arguably the most dangerous Chunin team in Konoha's history. Agreed, Sasuke said with a grim smile. Though I'd prefer to avoid civil conflict if possible. My clan's history with Konoha is complicated enough without adding to it. The reference to the Uchiha clan's troubled relationship with the village was significant. In the months following the invasion, Itachi had begun sharing carefully selected information with his younger brother, not the full truth of the clan's planned coup and subsequent massacre, but enough to help Sasuke understand the political complexities that had shaped their family's fate. Speaking of your clan, Naruto said, changing the subject, have you made any progress with the genjutsu variants we discussed? Sasuke's expression brightened slightly at the technical question. Some. I've managed to create a localized version of Itachi's Tsukuyomi that doesn't require eye contact. The duration is much shorter, only about 2 seconds of subjective time, but it's enough to create an opening in combat. Impressive, Naruto acknowledged genuinely. That addresses one of the primary weaknesses of Sharingan Genjutsu, the need for direct visual contact. They had reached Training Ground 3, finding it empty except for Sakura, who was practicing her medical ninjutsu on a wounded bird. Her pink hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore a modified medical uniform adapted for combat situations, another example of how Naruto's influence had shaped his teammates' development. There you are, she greeted, carefully setting the healed bird on a branch. How was the council meeting? Political, Naruto replied simply. Sai has been reassigned. Sakura's green eyes narrowed slightly. Danzo pulling his pieces back? Her quick grasp of the situation demonstrated just how far she had come from the academy student who had once been more concerned with romance than tactics. Under Naruto's guidance, she had developed not only her medical skills, but also a keen understanding of Konoha's political landscape. Most likely preparing for a power play, Sasuke confirmed. But we're focusing on training for now. Show Naruto what you've been working on. Sakura nodded, her expression becoming focused as she formed a series of hand signs. Chakra gathered around her hands, but instead of the standard green healing energy, it took on a more concentrated, almost crystalline appearance. Medical art, chakra scalpel extension, she announced, the chakra extending from her fingertips into razor-sharp blades nearly 30 centimeters long. With precise movements, she sliced through a training post, creating cuts so clean they were barely visible until the top portion slid off. Tsunade's technique, Naruto observed, studying the chakra formation with interest. But you've modified the standard application. I increased the density while narrowing the emission field, Sakura explained, clearly proud of her innovation. It requires more precise control, but extends the effective range and cutting power significantly. Applied in combat? Naruto asked, immediately thinking of tactical applications. I can maintain it for approximately 3 minutes of continuous use before chakra depletion becomes an issue. The cutting edge can penetrate standard ninja armor and most defensive jutsu below A rank. Naruto nodded approvingly. An excellent close to mid-range option that complements your existing skill set. Have you considered combining it with genjutsu to disguise the actual length of the blades? Sakura's eyes widened slightly. That's brilliant. Making the enemy believe the chakra extends only a few centimeters when it actually reaches much further. Creating an opening for a lethal strike against an opponent who believes they're safely out of range. Sasuke finished, already seeing the potential. We should develop that combination immediately. As the three Chunin began working through the practical applications of this new technique, none of them noticed the white-haired figure observing from a distant tree. Jiraiya of the Sannin watched with a mixture of pride and concern as his godson directed his teammates with the precision of a seasoned Jonin commander. Tsunade's words from their recent meeting echoed in his mind. That's not a child you're describing, Jiraiya. That's a weapon wearing a child's face. He had defended Naruto then, arguing that beneath the prodigy's calculated exterior beat the heart of Minato and Kushina's son. But watching him now, Seeing the cold efficiency with which he analyzed and improved his teammates' killing potential, Jiraiya couldn't help but wonder if Tsunade had been right. Had Konoha, in its determination to create the perfect Jinchuriki, sacrificed Naruto's humanity along the way? The question lingered uncomfortably as he disappeared in a swirl of leaves, heading to report to the soon-to-be fifth Hokage. Tsunade had finally agreed to return, but her conditions had been specific: a complete overhaul of the medical system, autonomy from the council's interference, and, most surprisingly, a direct role in Naruto Uzumaki's ongoing development. "He's becoming something we won't be able to control," she had warned Jiraiya. "And I'm not sure that's entirely a bad thing, but I want to ensure that whatever he becomes, he remains loyal to the village, not out of conditioning or obligation, but by choice." It was a noble goal, Jiraiya reflected as he leapt across the rooftops of Konoha. But whether even the legendary Tsunade could reconnect Naruto with his humanity remained to be seen. 3 years passed with the speed of wind through leaves. Konoha had prospered under Tsunade's leadership, rebuilding stronger than before and establishing new alliances throughout the shinobi world. The Sand Village had become their closest ally, with Gaara, now stabilized and rapidly maturing, selected as the 5th Kazekage at the unprecedented age of 15. But shadows gathered at the edges of this hard-won peace. Rumors of an organization called Akatsuki Hunting Jinchuriki had been confirmed when they attempted to capture Gaara, only to be repelled by the combined forces of Sand and Leaf, with Naruto and Sasuke playing crucial roles in the defense. Now 16, Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, looking out over the village as the sun set. His appearance had matured alongside his abilities, taller, with sharper features that increasingly resembled his father's, though few in the village made that connection. His black and navy uniform had been supplemented with a specially designed Jonin vest, modified for maximum mobility. "Thought I might find you here," came Jiraiya's voice as the Sannin approached from behind. "Enjoying the view or planning village defenses again?" "Both," Naruto replied honestly. "The western approach still has vulnerabilities that concern me." Jiraiya chuckled, coming to stand beside his student. But over the years, he had taken a more active role in Naruto's training, focusing particularly on sealing techniques and tailed beast control. Their relationship had evolved from formal mentor-student to something approaching family, though Naruto's reserved nature kept a certain distance that Jiraiya had learned to respect. Always the tactician. You know, most 16-year-olds are more concerned with dating than defensive perimeters. A small smile touched Naruto's lips. Most 16-year-olds aren't specialized Jonin with S-rank threat assessments from 3 different nations. The observation wasn't boastful, merely factual. Naruto's reputation had spread far beyond Konoha's borders, his swift release techniques becoming as feared as the Yellow Flash's Flying Thunder God had been during the previous war. Missing Nin reportedly avoided Fire Country entirely, rather than risk encountering the Phantom of Konoha. "Speaking of your status," Jiraiya said, his tone becoming more serious, "Tsunade has made a decision regarding your Anbu application." Naruto turned to face his mentor fully, his expression carefully neutral despite the importance of this news. He had applied for Anbu 3 months earlier, reasoning that his specialized skills would be most effectively utilized in the elite force. "She's declined it," Jiraiya continued. "But before you object, she has an alternative proposition." "I'm listening." "The formation of a new specialized unit, operating at Jonin Anbu intersection level. You would lead, with authority to select your own team members and considerable operational autonomy." Naruto processed this information quickly. Similar to the old Guardian 12 structure? In concept, yes, but with a more specific mandate, direct response to Akatsuki and other S-rank threats. The unit would report only to the Hokage and have clearance for cross-border operations under specific circumstances. It was an intriguing proposition, one that recognized both Naruto's capabilities and his value as a field commander, rather than a solitary operative. Over the years, he had demonstrated an exceptional ability to enhance team effectiveness through precise tactical deployment, turning even average ninja into devastatingly effective units. "Who has Tsunade-sama pre-approved for recruitment?" Naruto asked, already considering potential team compositions. Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Hinata Hyuga automatically qualify based on their current clearance levels and your established working relationship. Beyond that, you'd have authority to recruit up to 3 additional members, subject to final approval. Naruto nodded thoughtfully. His original teammates were obvious choices. They had continued developing alongside him, reaching Jonin rank through different but complementary paths. Sasuke had mastered a unique blend of Uchiha fire techniques and lightning manipulation that made him one of Konoha's most lethal combat specialists. Sakura had become Tsunade's successor in medical ninjutsu while developing her own chakra-enhanced combat style. And Hinata, though technically part of Team 8, had worked extensively with Naruto over the years, her gentle fist techniques providing perfect synergy with his speed-based attacks. For the additional positions, I would nominate Shikamaru Nara for strategic analysis, Neji Hyuga for reconnaissance, and Tenten for weapons and ceiling support. Naruto decided after brief consideration. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. No Inuzuka or Aburame? They've worked well with you in the past. Kiba and Shino are more valuable maintaining their existing team structure with Kurenai, Naruto explained. Breaking up too many established units would damage Konoha's overall mission capability. My selections minimize disruption while maximizing our specific effectiveness against Akatsuki-level threats. The Sannin nodded, unsurprised by the thoroughness of Naruto's analysis. I'll convey your acceptance and recommendations to Tsunade. She wants the unit operational within 2 weeks. Intelligence suggests Akatsuki is accelerating their timetable. Based on their failed attempt to capture Gaara? Partly, but there's more. Jiraiya's expression grew somber. We've confirmed the identity of their leader, or at least the individual directing their field operations. Something in his tone made Naruto pause. Someone you know. Pain, Jiraiya said, the name hanging heavily between them. Claiming to be from the Hidden Rain village and possessing the Rinnegan. The implications were significant. The Rinnegan was considered largely mythical, the legendary dojutsu of the Sage of Six Paths himself. If Akatsuki's leader truly possessed such power, the threat level increased dramatically. You're planning to investigate personally, Naruto observed, reading the intention in his mentor's posture. Jiraiya didn't bother denying it. I trained a group of orphans in Omegakure during the last war. If Pain is who I suspect, I have a responsibility to confirm it. It's a trap, Naruto stated flatly. Akatsuki would expect you to make this connection and prepare accordingly. Almost certainly, Jiraiya agreed with a grim smile. But sometimes you have to spring the trap to understand the mechanism. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. When do you leave? Tomorrow morning. I'll gather what intelligence I can and return within 3 weeks, hopefully before your new unit needs to deploy. There was something in Jiraiya's tone, a subtle note of finality, that triggered an unfamiliar sensation in Naruto's chest. It took him a moment to identify it as concern, perhaps even fear. Emotions he had systematically suppressed throughout his development as a weapon were becoming increasingly difficult to contain, especially regarding the small circle of people he had come to value. I should accompany you, he said, the words emerging before he could fully analyze their strategic merit. A 2-person team increases survival probability by approximately 64% in unknown hostile territory. Jiraiya looked genuinely surprised by the offer, then touched by the concern behind it. I appreciate that, kid, more than you know. But this is a reconnaissance mission that requires a specific skill set. My spy network, my connections in Am, my history with the region, it has to be me, alone. Logic dictated acceptance of this assessment, but Naruto found himself uncharacteristically resistant to the conclusion. At least allow me to provide a specialized seal matrix for emergency extraction. I've been developing a variation of the Flying Thunder God technique that doesn't require the user to have placed the marker personally. Now Jiraiya was truly impressed. Minato's legendary technique had been considered almost impossible to replicate due to its complex space-time manipulation requirements. That Naruto had made progress toward adapting it spoke volumes about his growth as a seal master. All right, he agreed. Show me this seal before I leave. If it's viable, I'll carry it. As they turned to descend from the monument, Jiraiya placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. A casual gesture that would have been unremarkable with anyone else, but represented significant progress in their relationship. You know, your parents would be proud of what you've become. The Sanin said quietly, not just your abilities, but the leader you've grown into. Naruto absorbed this statement silently. His knowledge of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki had expanded significantly since Tsunade had taken office, with previously classified information about his parentage shared under strict security protocols. While he understood the strategic reasons for the secrecy, his father's enemies would have targeted him relentlessly had his heritage been known. The revelation had awakened complicated emotions he was still learning to process. I hope to honor their legacy through service to the village, he replied finally, his standard response to such sentiments. Jiraiya sighed almost imperceptibly. There's more to life than service, Naruto. More to being human than being useful. That's something they would have wanted you to understand too. It was an ongoing conversation between them, Jiraiya's persistent attempts to encourage Naruto's emotional development alongside his tactical growth. Progress had been slow but measurable, with Naruto gradually allowing himself greater emotional connection with his closest associates. Perhaps, Naruto acknowledged, neither accepting nor rejecting the premise. But service provides clear parameters for success. Humanity is less quantifiable. The Sanin chuckled. That's what makes it worth experiencing, kid. The parts of life you can't measure are often the most valuable. As they made their way back to the village proper, neither could have predicted that this philosophical discussion would be their last. Within 2 weeks, Jiraiya of the Sanin would be confirmed dead at the hands of Pain, leaving behind critical intelligence about Akatsuki's true nature, and a profound absence in the life of a young man still learning what it meant to care for someone beyond their tactical value. The seal that Naruto had provided would activate too late to save his mentor, but just in time to transmit Jiraiya's final message, coordinates to Omegakure, and a single coded phrase that only Naruto would understand. The ghost becomes human when it loves. Rain fell in sheets across Omegakure, a constant downpour that shrouded the industrial skyline in perpetual gloom. Among the towering pipes and metal structures, 6 figures moved with purpose, their black cloaks with red cloud patterns identifying them as the leadership of Akatsuki. At their center walked a man with bright orange hair and a face studded with black receivers. His ringed purple eyes, the legendary Rinnegan, surveyed the village that worshipped him as a god. Conan, Pain addressed the blue-haired woman beside him. The preparations for the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki? Complete, she replied, her expression serene despite the gravity of their plans. Though I must reiterate my concerns, this Naruto Uzumaki is not like the others. His tactical acumen and combat capabilities exceed our intelligence projections. It doesn't matter, declared a white-haired man with a massive 3-bladed scythe. Jashin demands his sacrifice, and I'll deliver it whether he's a genius or not. Your religious fanaticism is irrelevant, Hidan, said his partner, a masked man whose green eyes calculated the financial implications of their mission. What matters is that capturing the Nine-Tails completes our collection and allows the plan to proceed to its final phase. Pain raised a hand, silencing further discussion. We have accounted for all variables. Jiraiya's infiltration provided the perfect opportunity to demonstrate our power while drawing out his student. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki will come, driven by emotion rather than strategy. It will be his undoing. What none of them realized was that their conversation was being monitored, not through conventional means, but via a specialized seal matrix hidden among the countless paper constructs that Conan had distributed throughout the village. 30 kilometers away, concealed in an abandoned outpost at the border of Rain Country, Naruto Uzumaki processed this intelligence with cold precision. Around him, the newly formed specialized unit that Tsunade had authorized prepared for what would likely be their most dangerous mission yet. They're expecting you to come alone, Sasuke observed, his Sharingan active as he studied the tactical display Naruto had created, driven by grief and seeking revenge for Jiraiya. A logical assumption based on standard behavioral patterns, Naruto acknowledged. One we can exploit. Sakura frowned as she finished preparing her medical supplies. 6 paths of pain, each with different abilities, plus Konan and potentially other Akatsuki members. The odds are concerning, which is why direct confrontation would be suboptimal, Naruto replied. Our approach will be systematic isolation and neutralization of each target, beginning with their sensory capabilities. Hinata, who had been using her Byakugan to monitor chakra fluctuations in the direction of Amegakure, turned to the group. The chakra network connecting the 6 bodies is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if they're all extensions of a single system, but with a control point located elsewhere. This confirmed what Jiraiya's final intelligence had suggested. The 6 paths of pain were not independent entities, but puppets controlled remotely. Finding and neutralizing the true controller would be the key to victory. Neji, your assessment? Naruto asked the older Hyuga, who had been analyzing Hinata's observations. The chakra transmission appears to have limitations based on distance and line of sight, Neji reported. If we can disrupt the network at critical junctions, we may be able to isolate individual paths temporarily. Shikamaru, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. I've completed the probability analysis based on our intelligence. Our highest chance of success, 47.3%, comes from a layered approach. First, isolate and neutralize the path with sensory abilities. Second, deploy Naruto's specialized sealing techniques to disrupt the chakra network. Third, locate and neutralize the actual controller while the paths are compromised. And if we fail to locate the controller? Tenten asked, organizing her vast array of weapons and sealing scrolls. Then we implement Contingency Omega, Naruto stated flatly. Full retreat with sacrificial shadow clone diversions to ensure team extraction. The implication was clear. Unlike traditional Konoha operations where mission success often took precedence over survival, Naruto had designed their approach with team preservation as a non-negotiable parameter. It was one of many ways his leadership differed from standard protocol, and one of the reasons his unit had quickly earned the loyalty of its members. Timeline? Sasuke inquired, already checking his equipment. We move at 0-100 hours, Naruto decided. The rainfall patterns indicate a brief decrease in intensity during that window, which will provide marginal improvement in visibility and chakra transmission for our communication seals. As the team continued their preparations, Sasuke approached Naruto privately, his voice low enough that only they could hear. You're keeping something back, he observed. It wasn't an accusation, merely an assessment based on years of working closely with the blonde tactician. Naruto met his gaze steadily. Jiraiya's final message contained more than coordinates. He identified the likely true identity of Pain, Nagato, one of 3 orphans he trained during the previous war. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. That changes the tactical approach. If there's a personal connection, it creates both vulnerability and opportunity, Naruto completed the thought. Nagato may retain emotional ties to Jiraiya despite their conflict. I intend to exploit that possibility if direct confrontation becomes unavoidable. By appealing to those emotions? Sasuke sounded skeptical. That's uncharacteristic of your usual approach. Something subtle shifted in Naruto's expression, a momentary glimpse of the internal evolution that had been occurring since Jiraiya's death. Effective strategy adapts to incorporate all available tools. Emotional leverage is simply another tactical option. Sasuke studied his friend for a long moment before nodding. Just make sure you remember the difference between exploiting someone else's emotions and being controlled by your own. The gentle warning reflected how their relationship had evolved over the years. Where once Sasuke had resented Naruto's abilities, he now served as a stabilizing influence, one of the few people who could speak candidly to the blonde without concern for hierarchy or protocol. I always maintain control, Naruto assured him, though something in his tone suggested the statement was as much self-reminder as confirmation. As the team completed their final preparations, Naruto stepped outside the outpost to observe the distant skyline of Amegakure. Rain fell steadily on his upturned face as he allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Jiraiya had been more than a mentor. He had been the first person to treat Naruto as something other than a weapon or a vessel. The first to suggest that his value extended beyond his utility to the village. His death had created a void that tactical analysis couldn't fill, awakening emotions that years of calculated development had suppressed but never eliminated. "I will complete your mission," Naruto promised quietly to the rain. "But I will do it my way, with precision, not passion." What he didn't acknowledge, even to himself, was that these were no longer mutually exclusive approaches. The precision remained, but beneath it, driving it, shaping it in subtle ways, the beginnings of passion had taken root. At exactly 200 hours, 6 shadows moved through the rain toward Amegakure, their approach concealed by specialized techniques and Naruto's meticulous planning. What awaited them was not merely a battle against the leaders of Akatsuki, but a confrontation with philosophies of pain, purpose, and peace that would challenge even Naruto's calculated worldview. The ghost was beginning to become human, just as Jiraiya had predicted. Whether that transformation would prove to be strength or vulnerability remained to be seen. The battle against pain unfolded not as a single confrontation, but as a series of precisely coordinated strikes across Amegakure. Naruto's team implemented their strategy with mechanical efficiency, isolating and neutralizing the 6 paths one by one while evading the village's extensive sensory network. But even the most perfect plan encounters variables beyond prediction. "Naruto," Hinata's voice came through their communication seal, tight with urgency. "We've been detected. The Deva path is moving toward your position, and Konan is intercepting Sasuke and Sakura." Crouched atop a metal structure overlooking the central tower, Naruto processed this development with rapid calculations. They had successfully neutralized 3 of the 6 paths, the animal, Preta, and human paths, but the remaining 3, including the most powerful Deva path, were now actively hunting them. "Implement Phase Theta," he commanded. "Neji, Tenten, disengage from the Asura path and move to support Sasuke and Sakura. Shikamaru, maintain surveillance on the Naraka path. Hinata, converge on my position. I'll handle the Deva path." Acknowledgements came through the seal as his team adjusted to the new parameters. Naruto remained motionless, conserving energy while tracking the approach of what intelligence indicated was Pain's primary body, the one capable of manipulating attractive and repulsive forces. He didn't have to wait long. The orange-haired figure landed on the platform across from him, rain cascading off his black cloak as his Rinnegan eyes fixed on the blonde shinobi. "Naruto Uzumaki," Pain stated, his voice carrying a strange resonance. "You've proven more methodical than anticipated. Separating my paths demonstrated significant tactical insight." "Nagato," Naruto replied, using the controller's true name deliberately. "Or would you prefer Yahiko, since you're wearing his corpse?" The Deva path's expression didn't change, but a subtle tension appeared in his posture. Jiraiya provided more information than expected. "It changes nothing." "It changes everything," Naruto countered, rising slowly to his full height. "It contextualizes your actions within a framework of personal history rather than abstract ideology. Your pain has a source, your methods have an origin, both can be addressed." For a moment, Pain seemed genuinely taken aback by this analytical deconstruction of his motivations. He had expected rage, accusations, perhaps even tears, the emotional response of a student grieving his master. Instead, he faced a calculated assessment of his psychological profile. "You speak as if human suffering can be solved through logical analysis," Pain said finally. "This reveals your fundamental misunderstanding. Pain is not rational. It is not subject to negotiation or compromise. It simply is." "All phenomena have underlying mechanisms," Naruto replied. "Even pain, especially pain. Yours began with the death of your parents during war, continued with Yahiko's sacrifice, and culminated in your decision to become a god through power rather than a savior through understanding." The Deva Path's hand rose, a gravitational force beginning to concentrate in his palm. "You dissect what you cannot comprehend. This is the arrogance of prodigies, believing that analysis equals understanding." "Then help me understand," Naruto challenged, making no move to defend himself despite the imminent attack. "Show me the pain that drove Nagato of the Hidden Rain to become a self-proclaimed god." The gravitational force paused, hovering on the edge of release. Something had shifted in the dynamic between them, a recalculation occurring in the mind controlling the body before him. "You wish to understand pain?" The Deva Path's eyes narrowed. "Very well. I will grant your request." What followed was not a physical attack, but a mental invasion. The Renegade's power channeling directly into Naruto's consciousness, bypassing his formidable mental defenses through sheer overwhelming force. Images flooded his mind. A small house in Amagakure, ninja breaking in, parents dying protecting their child, years of starvation and struggle, the formation of a resistance group, betrayal, Yahiko's death on a blade meant for Nagato, and finally, the transformation of grief into a cold, implacable determination to remake the world through devastating power. When the mental link severed, Naruto remained standing, but his breathing had become irregular, a rare display of physical reaction to psychological stress. The calculated mask had cracked, revealing something more human beneath. "Now you have seen," Pain declared. "This is the reality that shaped my path. This is why peace through understanding is a child's fantasy. Only through overwhelming power, through pain, will humanity learn." For several seconds, Naruto was silent, processing not just the information, but the emotional content that had accompanied it, something his tactical mind would normally filter out, but which had been forced directly into his consciousness. "Your conclusion is flawed," he said finally, his voice steadier than his slightly trembling hands. "You've confused correlation with causation. Pain did not teach you, it broke you. What you learned wasn't wisdom, but trauma response." The Deva Path's expression hardened. "You still refuse to understand." "No," Naruto countered. "I understand perfectly. You believe you're creating a world without suffering by making suffering so universal that humanity will abandon war out of fear. But you're simply perpetuating the cycle that destroyed your family, killed Yahiko, and corrupted your purpose." "Enough philosophy," Pain declared, his patience exhausted. "Shinra Tensei!" The gravitational repulsion wave erupted from his palm with devastating force, tearing through the rain and shattering the metal platform where Naruto had been standing. But the blonde shinobi was already moving, his swift release carrying him through the raindrops themselves as he circled his opponent. "Your technique has a 5-second recharge interval," Naruto observed, appearing momentarily before vanishing again, during which you're vulnerable to counterattack. Pain's eyes widened fractionally, the first sign of genuine surprise. Before he could respond, Naruto materialized directly behind him, a specialized sealing tag already pressed against the back of the Devapath's neck. "Disruption seal, network severance." The tag flared with blue chakra, temporarily severing the connection between the Devapath and its controller. The body stiffened, then collapsed like a marionette with cut strings. But Naruto knew this was only a temporary victory. Somewhere in Amegakure, the real Nagato would be adjusting, potentially redirecting his consciousness to one of the remaining paths. He needed to locate the controller before the connection could be reestablished. His communication seal activated. "Naruto," came Hinata's voice, strained with effort. "We've located the source. Northern quadrant, underground chamber beneath the tallest tower. Sasuke and Neji are engaging Konan to create an opening." "Status of other team members?" Naruto asked, already moving toward the coordinates. "Sakura is treating Tenten for injuries sustained against the Asura path. Shikamaru has immobilized the Naraka path, but can't maintain the shadow possession much longer." "Understood. Converge on my position. We move on the controller together." As Naruto raced through the rain-slick structures of Amegakure, he felt an unfamiliar sensation building in his chest. Not the cold calculation that usually drove his combat decisions, but something hotter, more urgent. Seeing Nagato's memories had affected him more deeply than he cared to admit, creating an emotional resonance he hadn't anticipated. For the first time in his development as a shinobi, Naruto Uzumaki was fighting not just with his mind, but with his heart, and the experience was both disorienting and strangely empowering. When he finally broke through to the hidden chamber, what he found was not the godlike figure Pain projected to the world, but an emaciated man connected to a mechanical chair through numerous black receivers. Beside him stood a blue-haired woman, Konan, her paper jutsu holding Sasuke and Hinata at bay while Neji lay unconscious nearby. "So you found me," Nagato acknowledged, his actual voice weaker than the resonant tones of his paths, but carrying the same conviction. "It changes nothing. Even in this state, my power exceeds yours." Naruto assessed the situation with practiced efficiency. Nagato's physical condition was severely compromised, but his chakra remained formidable, perhaps even more concentrated for being contained in his weakened body. Konan was fully engaged with Sasuke and Hinata, creating a momentary opening for direct engagement with the Akatsuki leader. But instead of attacking, Naruto did something unexpected. He approached Nagato slowly, hands empty of weapons or seals. "Your power isn't the issue," he said quietly. "It never was. The issue is how you've chosen to use it." Nagato's Rinnegan eyes narrowed. "You presume to judge me? You, who has never experienced true loss or pain?" "I carry the nine tails," Naruto replied evenly. "I grew up isolated, feared, developed as a weapon rather than a person. Different pain, but pain nonetheless. Yet you serve the very system that used you," Nagato countered. "You've become the perfect tool of the establishment that caused your suffering." The observation struck closer to home than Naruto wanted to admit. For years, he had indeed functioned as precisely that, a weapon wielded by Konoha, his development tailored to maximize his utility to the village. It was only recently, through his connections with people like Jiraiya, Sasuke, and his team, that he had begun to question this role. "I chose my path," Naruto said finally. "Not because I don't see the flaws in the system, but because I believe change comes from within, not through destruction." "Naive," Nagato dismissed. "Systems perpetuate themselves. They cannot be reformed, only replaced. Like you replaced Yahiko's dream of peaceful revolution with your doctrine of pain." The question was pointed, delivered with uncharacteristic emotional weight. "He didn't die so you could become what you're fighting against." Something flickered in Nagato's eyes, a momentary uncertainty that suggested Naruto's words had found their mark. Across the chamber, the battle between Konan and the Konoha shinobi had reached a stalemate, both sides watching the exchange between Jinchuriki and Rinnegan wielder with varying degrees of tension. "What would you propose instead?" Nagato asked, his tone somewhere between mockery and genuine curiosity. "That we all join hands and trust in humanity's better nature? History has proven the futility of such idealism." "Not idealism," Naruto corrected. "Strategic investment in alternative methodologies. Peace through interdependence rather than fear. Economic ties instead of military threats. Shared knowledge rather than hoarded techniques." Nagato actually laughed, a harsh, broken sound that ended in a cough. "You speak like a politician while standing in the heart of a village that has suffered precisely because of the political games of the five great nations." "I speak like someone who has calculated all possible approaches and found yours to be fundamentally flawed," Naruto countered. "Your plan to use the tailed beasts as weapons of mass destruction would reset the cycle, not end it. Within a generation, new conflicts would emerge, new pain would be inflicted, and your sacrifice and Yahiko's would be meaningless." The chamber fell silent, except for the distant sound of rain. Nagato studied Naruto with an intensity that seemed to peer into his very soul, the Rinnegan penetrating beyond physical appearance to something deeper. "You believe this," he said finally, sounding almost surprised. "Not as propaganda or manipulation, but as calculated truth." "I do," Naruto confirmed, "and so did Jiraiya. It's why he continued to believe in a better future despite witnessing the same horrors you did." At the mention of their shared mentor, something changed in Nagato's expression, a softening around the edges of his determination. Jiraiya was an idealist to the end. "He was a realist who chose hope over despair," Naruto corrected. "And he saw in both of us the potential to create real change, not through overwhelming power, but through understanding and persistence." For a long moment, Nagato seemed to be waging an internal battle, weighing decades of pain and conviction against the words of the young man before him. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost some of its divine certainty. "Show me," he challenged. "Not through words, but action. If your path has merit, prove it by creating the change you describe. I will watch from whatever afterlife awaits me." Before Naruto could respond, Nagato's hands formed a seal sequence that no one present recognized. Konan immediately disengaged from her battle, moving toward her companion with alarm. "Nagato, no!" she cried. "Not that technique!" "It is fitting," Nagato replied, his chakra beginning to glow around him with increasing intensity. "One final act to test this alternative path. Rinne Rebirth." The chamber filled with blinding light as Nagato channeled the Rinnegan's ultimate technique, one that exchanged the user's life to restore those they had killed. Throughout Omegakure and beyond, those who had fallen to Pain's attacks, including Jiraiya of the Sannin, felt life returning to their bodies in a miraculous reversal of death itself. Naruto understood immediately what was happening, a sacrifice that simultaneously challenged and validated his position. Nagato was giving him the opportunity to prove his approach by restoring all he had taken, but at the cost of removing himself from the equation. This doesn't prove anything, Naruto argued, stepping forward as Nagato's body began to wither before his eyes, life force draining away to power the massive technique. Your death doesn't advance either of our goals. On the contrary, Nagato replied, his voice growing weaker with each word. It creates the conditions for your theory to be tested without my interference. If you succeed in creating peace without the cycle of hatred, then I will have been wrong. If you fail, then perhaps in another life, we'll try my approach again. As the technique reached its conclusion, Nagato fixed his gaze one final time on Naruto. Konan will watch. She will judge whether your path bears fruit, and she will act accordingly. With those words, the last of his life force departed, leaving behind a withered husk where one of the most powerful shinobi in the world had once sat. Konan, tears streaming down her face, gently closed his eyes before turning to face the Konoha ninja. I will honor his final decision, she stated, her voice steady despite her grief. Akatsuki's operations against Konoha are suspended, effective immediately. But know this, Naruto Uzumaki, I will be watching. If your way fails, if the cycle continues unbroken, I will resume Nagato's work. Naruto nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility that had just been placed on his shoulders. I accept those terms. As his team regrouped, tending to their wounded and processing what they had witnessed, Naruto stood silently beside Nagato's body, his analytical mind already calculating the implications of this unexpected outcome. They had achieved their primary objective, neutralizing the threat of pain, but through means he could never have predicted. You were right, Sasuke observed quietly, coming to stand beside him. Emotional leverage proved effective after all. Naruto shook his head slightly. It wasn't leverage, it was connection. I understood his pain because it paralleled my own, despite our different circumstances. The admission represented a significant evolution in Naruto's self-perception, an acknowledgement that his effectiveness had come not from suppressing his humanity, but from embracing it. As they prepared to return to Konoha with news of their success and the miraculous resurrection of those Pain had killed, Naruto found himself contemplating Jiraiya's final message with new understanding. The ghost becomes human when it loves. He had always interpreted it as tactical advice, suggesting that emotional connection could be strategically valuable. Now he recognized it for what it truly was, not strategy, but wisdom. The path to becoming fully human, to transcending his development as a mere weapon, lay not in further refinement of his abilities, but in deeper connection with others. It was a realization that would fundamentally alter his approach to both his profession and his life, a transformation that had begun with Jiraiya's mentorship and would continue through the challenges that still awaited him. The second coming of the teleporter had always been extraordinary in his abilities. Now he was becoming extraordinary in his humanity as well. 1 year later, Naruto Uzumaki stood atop the Hokage monument, the setting sun casting long shadows across Konoha. At 17, he had grown into a young man whose presence commanded respect throughout the shinobi world. His specialized unit had evolved into an internationally recognized peacekeeping force, operating beyond traditional village boundaries to address threats to the fragile alliance system that had emerged following Pain's defeat. I thought I might find you here, came a familiar voice. Naruto turned to see Tsunade approaching, her youthful appearance belying the wisdom of her years. As the fifth Hokage, she had skillfully navigated the political aftermath of the Akatsuki conflict, transforming potential chaos into an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation between the 5 great nations. Hokage-sama, Naruto greeted with a respectful nod. I was just reviewing the border reports before tomorrow's summit. Tsunade smiled knowingly. Always working. Some things never change. But they had changed in ways both subtle and profound. While Naruto's analytical brilliance remained undiminished, It was now tempered by an emotional intelligence that made him not just respected, but genuinely admired by those who served with him. His tactical decisions still prioritized efficiency, but not at the cost of human considerations. The Kazekage's delegation arrived an hour ago, Tsunade informed him. Gaara specifically asked to see you before the formal proceedings begin. Naruto nodded, unsurprised. His friendship with the Sand Leader had deepened over the years, founded on their shared experiences as Jinchuriki and their mutual commitment to creating a more stable shinobi world. There's something else, Tsunade continued, her expression becoming more serious. The council has reached a decision regarding your nomination. This caught Naruto's full attention. 3 months earlier, in a move that had surprised even his closest associates, Tsunade had formally nominated him as her eventual successor for the position of Hokage. The nomination had been met with mixed reactions, enthusiasm from the younger generation and the general populace, caution from some of the clan heads, and outright opposition from hardliners like Danzo. And, Naruto prompted when Tsunade didn't immediately continue. "You've been confirmed," she said, a smile breaking through her serious expression. "Effective following my retirement next spring, you will become the 6th Hokage of Konoha." Despite his usual composure, Naruto couldn't entirely suppress his reaction to this news. A brief widening of his eyes, a momentary catch in his breathing, small tells that would have been imperceptible to most observers, but were clear to someone who knew him as well as Tsunade did. "The vote?" he asked, his analytical mind immediately seeking the specific data. 12 in favor, 3 opposed, 2 abstentions, Tsunade reported. Danzo attempted to block the confirmation by raising concerns about your age and, quote, emotional development, but Kakashi rather eloquently countered those arguments. Naruto processed this information thoughtfully. The margin was stronger than his projections had suggested, indicating a shift in perception among Konoha's leadership over recent months. "Thank you," he said finally, the simple acknowledgement carrying more emotional weight than a more effusive response might have. "I will endeavor to justify their confidence." Tsunade stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder in a gesture reminiscent of Jiraiya. "You know, when I first met you, I told Jiraiya that you weren't a child but a weapon wearing a child's face. I was wrong." Naruto raised an eyebrow, silently inviting her to continue. "You were both," she explained. "A weapon, yes, the most precisely owned I've ever encountered, but also a child, buried beneath layers of tactical conditioning and prodigious development. What's remarkable isn't that you became the former, but that you rediscovered the latter." It was an unusually philosophical observation from the typically straightforward Hokage, suggesting she had given considerable thought to Naruto's evolution. "Jiraiya would be insufferably proud," she added with a fond smile. "And not just of your abilities." The mention of his mentor brought a momentary shadow to Naruto's expression. Though the Sannin had been restored to life by Nagato's final technique, he had chosen to remain largely in the field, maintaining his spy network and serving as Konoha's eyes and ears throughout the shinobi world. His visits to the village were infrequent but meaningful, each one marked by his continuing efforts to nurture Naruto's emotional growth alongside his professional development. "He predicted this outcome years ago," Naruto acknowledged, "though I dismissed it as sentimental projection at the time." Tsunade laughed. "He always did see further than the rest of us when it came to people's potential. It's what made him a terrible gambler, but an excellent teacher."
And that's how a true prodigy reshapes the ninja world. If you enjoyed seeing Naruto reach his true potential, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic what-if scenarios. Thanks for watching.